Reborn in India as a Magnate. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226. Promoted to strategic partner. 80% new Mitsubishi trucks with a load capacity of 35 tons, with a total value of more than 300 million rupees, are really generous. If public property is used for private purposes to this extent, you can imagine how corrupt the Indian government must be. But I like it. Taking advantage of the public, it is a waste. Anyway, it is to save money for yourself. Why not do it? Besides, 80% new 35-ton trucks can fully meet the needs of all subsidiaries of Singh Industries. Since you have opened your mouth, there is nothing to be polite about. One sheep is driven, and 2 sheep are released. Anyway, it does not cost the Bister families money. How much can you get for yourself? It is cheap for yourself. Sobel rolled his eyes and said with a smile, I still need 10 excavators. The bucket of the excavator can be disassembled by itself, equipped with 5 stone crushing spikes and 10 forklifts. In order to realize the desire of both parties to continue cooperation, Axe can only satisfy Belsingh's appetite. Besides, although these machines are imported, but for officials, it is just signing a purchase order, saying with a smile, yes, my uncle is the director of the Ministry of Transportation of Rajasthan, and these construction vehicles are also on the Ministry of Transportation's procurement list. As I said before, these construction vehicles are openly owned by the Rajasthan government, but you can use them secretly. Are you satisfied now? It's still early. Although these dozens of construction vehicles are expensive, they are only a few million US. What do you think of exchanging them for my 35% original shares? How can such a good thing happen? Now is the time to kill the pig and bleed it. If you miss this village, you will miss this shop. It's better to state all the conditions at once. If you add them later, the other party will get impatient, no matter how good his temper is. There is also a $2 million interest-free loan and 20 years of tax incentives. You just said that your uncle is in charge of the Ministry of Transportation. It's not too much to ask him to build an asphalt road for our Sinja town. It's convenient to go all the way to Udaipur, so that the raw materials can be transported back, and the products produced can be transported out. The new requirements are all paperwork. For the Bister family who hold important positions in government departments, it is just a matter of signing a word. Whether it is road construction, or granting loans or tax incentives, these are all good things for the government, and can be done blatantly. But Axe did not expect that Belsingh's appetite was so big and shameless. He wanted things and policies. The real villain was much more lovely than those hypocrites. As long as the needs of the allies were met, his own interests would be guaranteed. With Belsingh's ability to make money, it was enough for the two families to meet on an equal footing and form strategic partners rather than a subordinate relationship. Since Axe decided to raise the status of the Singh family, he would fully cooperate with Singh. All of Singh's requirements were met. It was his turn to make demands. He looked at Belsingh with a smile and said, how about Singh? I have met all the requirements you put forward. The original shares should be at least 20%. Otherwise, I can't explain to my family that I can't afford so many resources and get no return. Do you think they will give you the green light? 20% of the shares is really too much. This is the original shares. In the future, he really wants to develop Sinja town into the Indian version of Yewu. The scale of the real estate alone has reached a terrifying level. If 20% of the original shares are distributed for nothing, the loss will be huge. We should fight for it. Sobel Sr. shook his head, stretched out his 5 fingers, shook them in front of Axe, and then said with a smile, at most 5%. You know how ambitious I am. If we really want to develop it into the Indian version of Yewu, the profit will be huge. 5% is too little, and the family will never agree to it. So Axe shook his head firmly, and said with a smile, 15%, no less. With our Bister family as an ally, in the next 40 or 50 years, I guarantee that your Singh family will prosper, and no one in the officialdom will dare to touch a hair of your Singh family. Bell curled his lips and cursed in his heart. It's better to trust a bitch than to trust you politicians. If there are enough benefits, you will sell out the Singh family at the first opportunity. You won't put all your eggs in one basket. Now, I haven't found a more suitable relationship than you. If I find it, you can only take turns to be a second-rate ally like Magnate. Bell Singh cursed the other party in his heart, but still said it with a smile on his face. 15% is impossible. The most I can offer is 7%. Don't forget that. There are so many officials from various factions in our town. Which one of them doesn't have a share? Your family alone owns 15%. How much profit can an investor like me make? Just let you vampires take it all. Can't I work for you? Axe knew that Belsina was telling the truth. The vampires in the town were not easy to deal with. If you don't satisfy any of them, something bad will happen. You take a bite, I take a bite, and you can imagine how much dry goods Belsina will have left in the end. But this is related to the profit of his family. How can he not be ruthless? Now is not the time to be soft-hearted. So he stretched out a finger and shook it, and then said firmly, 10% less is not acceptable. In addition, I can help you block some of the vampires in the town. If you have any difficulties in the future, please let me know. Belsina smiled mysteriously, shook hands with the other party, and then said with a smile, so, our two families are strategic partners. Don't always treat the Singh family as a subsidiary product. The Singh family is much more powerful than you think. As long as I'm here, the Singh family will not be lonely, but will only move forward. The profits will also increase. Don't be blinded by those petty profits. There will be many more opportunities in the future, right? Axe also laughed and nodded. Brother, you are really brave. Only you dare to talk to me like this, and only you dare to negotiate with our Bister family so blatantly, but you have the strength. Only those with strength are qualified to propose conditions and to become equal partners with the Bister family. Your potential is endless. I'm very optimistic about you. Let's have a happy cooperation. Ha 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 ha. How can it be happy? The other party only used his finger to sign and ate up 10% of the original shares, but to let the other party hold the power in his hands. Signing a word is more useful than your own money. This is the benefit of the power brought by politics. This is also the reason why so many people are trying their best to become officials. The power to control the life and death of others is addictive. It's a pity that there are too few people in the Singh family. If only I had a few younger brothers, I could send them to college, and then use my connections and money to send them into officialdom and help them climb up step by step. Without power in their hands, they will always have no strong protective cloak and may become fat meat in the mouths of others at any time. Chapter 227, Official Development Program. After negotiating a deal with Axe and forming a strategic partnership, Bell Singh invited Axe to have dinner at his home. After dinner, when Axe left in his own car, Bell Singh called the old butler to the study room with a serious face. Sitting in the boss chair, Bell sighed and looked at the old butler, saying dissatisfiedly, old butler, I'm optimistic that there will be no one from our family serving as an official in India. After all, he is a 3-year-old kid holding a gold brick and wandering around in the crowd. Anyone can eat our family as a piece of fat meat. It is always a fatal trap to have no one from our family in the officialdom. Power is really a good thing, fascinating and desirable. They are the knife and we are the fish. They can cut it however they want. Do you think we are sad? Seeing that his master was so excited, the butler also asked with great heartache, the Bister family threatened you. Seeing that Axe left with a smile on his face, they must have achieved their goal. How much 20% do they want? Belsina sneered and curled his lips and said, 25% is probably too much. They only have 10%, and there is also a $2 million interest-free loan, 20 years of tax benefits, 50 various engineering vehicles, plus all the difficulties in the official phase. This can be exchanged for 10% of the profit. Otherwise our character family will not lose money. Even so I feel distressed. 10% of the original dry shares, no matter how big the plastic manufacturing plant expands in the future, even if it is listed for financing, the 10% of the original dry shares will not be diluted. If the Axe family wants to fleece the sheep, they will sell this 10% of the original dry shares in exchange for huge profits, and they cannot manage or participate. Don't you think this is painful? At that time, there will be an extra shareholder who controls 10% for no reason, and he will pick on him. How to maintain a good relationship at that time? It's a headache to think about it. When the old butler heard about 10%, although he was relieved in his heart, he still felt very painful. If the Indian version of Yawu is formed according to the plan of my master, the value of 10% of the original dry shares is inestimable. Who can be willing to give it away for nothing? But what can you do if you are not willing? Just as my master said, without my own people, the government officials, the family is like a 3-year-old child holding a gold brick, strolling all over the street. This is a big piece of fat meat walking. Whoever wants to bite it will bite it, and I have no ability to protect myself at all. This is the most helpless place. Seeing the master who was raised by himself being angry with others like this, and helpless and without means of counterattack, the old housekeeper felt very distressed, looking at the master who was angry with himself and persuading him. Master, this is also a matter of course. The Singh family is small. If there were a few brothers in your father's generation, they would definitely choose to go into politics, and you would not suffer so much grievance. It's too late to say anything now. Who knows what my grandfather thinks? Only one child was born to his father. Besides, even if my uncle is an official, can he listen to me and follow my command? Obviously, it is impossible. It is uncertain whether I can inherit the family property at that time. Belsina had a headache. He put his hands on his chin and just stared at the old butler, speaking word by word. No, old butler, we must change the status quo. Even a small Buster family has eaten them to death. What's the point of talking about future development? From now on, we should make some changes, and change them immediately. The old butler watched Belsina grow up. He knew Belsina's character best, and he would never suffer a loss. Even if he suffered a loss, he had to find a way to get revenge in the future. Isn't there a saying? Spit out what you have eaten from me, and give me back what I have taken. Belsina has such a character. He will not admit defeat, and cannot suffer a loss. So the old butler smiled with great satisfaction and asked, then I guess you should have some ideas, right? Tell me and I will discuss them with you. How to improve our plan, how to get rid of the fate of being manipulated by others, how to change your physiological position as fat meat. The old butler is the old butler who is very observant, and knows his character too well. If it weren't for the old butler's loyalty, he shouldn't have considered whether the position of butler should be replaced. Since the old butler asked this question, he must have guessed something, so he didn't hide it, and said with a smile, it's a little late to change the fate of our family now, but there is enough stamina. If this plan is implemented well, in 10 years, our family's physiological position will not only be fat meat, but a hedgehog covered with thorns. I wonder who dares to take a bite. The method is very simple. That is the official training plan. I have no brothers, sisters, or uncles. But there are many loyal servants in our family. Select a few capable ones and send them to Sinja town to get a position. While doing internships, you can gain experience. With the strong financial strength of our family, we will support you from behind and help you with all our efforts. As long as you are not a fool, you can climb up. As for how high you can climb, it depends on the thickness of our funds and the strength of our support. But there is a difficulty in the official training plan. That is, there is no way to ensure the loyalty of the candidates. The old butler nodded as he listened. His old man's adaptability really made him feel inferior. He thought of a solution so quickly. What the master said was an indisputable fact. How can we ensure the loyalty of the officials trained by the family? By then, the officials cultivated by these families at great cost will have become too powerful. What should they do if they don't obey orders or even turn against their masters? They have to be on guard, because people's hearts are unpredictable. All the male and female servants of the family are in their hands, and they are all the people they have watched grow up. They know almost everything about their personalities. After careful screening, there are only 2 candidates who are absolutely loyal to the family and absolutely 100% loyal. One is his grandson Jamal, and the other 100% loyal candidate is Rosebrook. The loyalty of these two people is beyond doubt. If Master Singh gives them a pistol and orders them to commit suicide, they will pull the trigger without hesitation. No matter how high these people are, no matter how much power they have in their hands, they will definitely follow the orders of their masters, and the interests of the Singh family is the criterion, and will never betray. Apart from these two people, no one can guarantee such strong loyalty, so the old butler considered and considered, and there were only these two candidates, reporting to his master. Master, although I selected all the servants in our family one by one, and have watched them grow up, some of them have strong personalities, some are weak, some are fickle-minded, and some only put their own interests first. If we really say that the loyalty is 100%, there are only two who will never betray the family. One is my grandson, and the other is Brooke. What do you think of these two candidates? Chapter 228, the first step to dominate Sinja Town. The two candidates proposed by the old housekeeper went through his mind again and again. Belsina had to admit that the old housekeeper had considered it very comprehensively and thoughtfully. The loyalty of these two people reached 100%, and they were loyal to him and his family. But he had chosen these two people, and they would need to help him manage the entire family and the industrial company in the future. If he sent them out to fight against those officials, he would be seriously short of manpower around him. But he couldn't catch the wolf without sacrificing his child, and he couldn't catch the gangster without sacrificing his wife. If he wanted to successfully become the armored coat of the Singh family in the officialdom and protect the fat inside, it was imperative. Otherwise, the whole family would be making wedding clothes for others and making money for others, and they might be slaughtered at any time. In addition, with his bad temper, if he went against those big shots, he would not know how he died. By then, wouldn't it drag the entire Singh family into the abyss? What time is it now? He should choose to give up. At worst, he, the world's #1 lazy bug, would bear more responsibilities of the group company. I have to work harder and harder, and I can give birth to a person and send him to the officialdom to fight. If there is a day of success, who can touch the Singh family? How can I get it if I'm willing to give it up? But in the officialdom, I have to fight with those old foxes. One wrong step is a bottomless abyss, and I can't be irritable and angry. Such a character will let those who do whatever it takes to catch the pigtail. So the human mule Brooke is not suitable for being an official, nor is he suitable for hanging out in the big divat of the officialdom. Then only little Jamal can be left. Little Jamal is the only grandson of the old housekeeper. He is smooth and clever, knows how to adapt, and knows how to make choices. It will not remain unchanged, and is very suitable for development in the officialdom. But little Jamal is the only grandson and only relative of the old housekeeper, although he is now married and has children. But the old housekeeper has paid too much for the Singh family, his youth, and the lives of his son and daughter-in-law. Now that they have given up their only remaining grandson, the Singh family feels sorry for the old butler. Bel Singh also doesn't want the old butler who took care of him and protected him from harm to make so much sacrifices. So after thinking about it, these two people are not suitable, and these two people are very suitable. Don't you think it's contradictory? Willing to give up, without giving up, how can you get? However, Bel Singh saw the old butler's grey hair and really couldn't make this decision. The old butler was too familiar with Bel Singh. As soon as he saw Bel Singh's face changing, he knew it, as if he was uncomfortable and let go. The master was struggling psychologically. After knocking on the table, to attract the master's attention, he smiled and said to Bel Singh, "Master, don't be too embarrassed. These two people are indeed the two most suitable candidates for our family at this stage. No one else can complete this important task, and you don't have to consider my feelings. It is worth it to serve the Singh family and be loyal to the Singh family, even if it means death. So don't be embarrassed. Let's choose little Jamal. I think he can complete this difficult task. The old butler is so selfless that he always takes the interests of the family as the basis. Where can you find such a good butler? The old man has paid too much. I really don't want the old man to lose his only grandson again. It's not peaceful in the officialdom." But Bel Singh saw the determined look of the old butler and had to compromise. The more he understood the old butler, the more he knew the old butler. He was resolute and always said what he meant. He grew up with the old butler. No matter how difficult or dangerous it was, the old butler never shed tears. Hearing that he finally had a child, and it was a boy, he ran to the shrine and cried, and got his only grandson out. Without blinking an eye, he knew that, if he refused the old housekeeper's proposal, it would hurt the old man, so he could only nod helplessly, and said with a smile. Just as the old housekeeper said, little Jamil is the best candidate, and his education level is also enough for this job. But he is the candidate for the next housekeeper of our family, who will take over after little Jamil leaves. You can't let such a big singer family be without a housekeeper, right? Belsinger is not at ease with someone else being the housekeeper. This person holds all the real information of the entire family and the power of life and death. If he betrays, there will be nothing to talk about. The entire family will die without a burial place, so the position of housekeeper is very sensitive and special. If you are not a truly trustworthy person, you cannot take on this important and sensitive position. After hearing Belsinger say this, the old man finally knew what the master was worried about, and laughed and patted his chest and said, I thought it was something else. You can rest assured about this, old master. Little Jamil's eldest son is already 3 years old this year, and I'm in good health. My eyes are not blurry, my ears are not deaf, and my mind is particularly clear. There is no problem in serving the family for 20 years. In these 20 years, I have led the little guy to learn the skills of managing the family. I can train you a qualified butler. Don't worry about this. The old man can give everything to the family. Now even his great-grandson has given it. What else can he say? What else can he say except being moved? With such a loyal servant, he would not change it even for $100 million US. In addition to the old butler's father and grandfather, it can be said that the Jamil family has served the Singh family for 6 generations, and the relationship between the two families has lasted for hundreds of years. Belsinger was speechless, and could only sigh and nod with a smile, agreeing with the suggestion made by the old butler. Belsinger lit a cigarette, and said while smoking, the person has been chosen, and it will not be changed. Little Jamil only has a junior high school education, which is okay at this stage. But if he wants to move up, this is a flaw, so send little Jamil to the town government to help change a position, and then apply for high school, and then go to college. Work and study at the same time, and with the full support of our family and sufficient financial resources, it is only a matter of time for him to move up. The first step we have to take is to dominate the entire Sinjar town, whether in the officialdom, economy, or culture, and comprehensively dominate this town, making it a well-deserved steel base for our family. The old housekeeper agreed with this, but eggs should not be put in one basket. What if little Jamil has an accident? All the hopes of the family are ruined. After discussing little Jamil's action plan for the next 5 years, Belsinger asked the old housekeeper to pay attention to the manpower from now on. All family members and all villagers in Raga can be selected. Select some smart and loyal people with high IQ to study in the city, and then disperse them throughout Rajasthan to become civil servants, enter government departments, and then climb up. Belsingh's ultimate goal is to control the entire Rajasthan in his own hands and form an independent kingdom belonging to the Singh family. Chapter 229. If you show kindness for no reason, you are either a traitor or a thief. Belsinger reluctantly agreed to send Jamil to the big Divat of Sinjar town for training, but he discussed it with the old housekeeper. The opinions of the parties involved should be consulted. If Jamil is unwilling, Belsinger will never force it. A forced melon is not sweet. If Jamil is unwilling to show his ability in the competitive officialdom, he will be forced to go up. Not only will it harm Jamil, but also the Singh family. If Jamil is caught by his opponents, the Singh family will be in danger. For the sake of safety, Singh still asked the old housekeeper to call Jamil to the study. The master and servant closed the door and kept talking for more than an hour. Only then did they agree to formulate the details of the action, because although Jamil knew a few words, his cultural level was still too low, and Belsinger was ambitious. In terms of hardware, the character family can provide unlimited quantities, but the software of its own quality needs Jamil to recharge himself. So arrange a job for Jamil in the government in a timely manner, and this job should not be too busy. It is necessary to take some time for Jamil to recharge. After much consideration, there was only one job that met the requirements, which was to be in charge of the transportation department in the town. Sinja was originally economically backward. The road traffic conditions could not be worse. In addition to managing the limited number of vehicles in the center of the town, the only thing left was to repair the bridges and roads, which was an easy job. So in the end, it was decided to let little Jamal take charge of the traffic in Sinja town. When he was free, he could also repair his own stone road, which was killing two birds with one stone. After discussing the details of the action, Belcina rested at home for 2 days before driving to the town. After returning to his home in the town, he took a shower, changed his clothes, and called Magnate. The phone rang a few times, and the other party answered it with a hearty laugh, and then said, "Little guy, I heard that you are very busy recently. Why did you think of calling me?" This was angry with himself, although he had excluded Magnate from the ranks of the first allies. But Magnate's position in the town is still deeply rooted and cannot be shaken. If the Singh family and the Bista family cooperate to form a strategic partnership, the two sides are already unbreakable. But Singh will not abandon Magnate's line, and eggs cannot be put in the same basket. What's more, the Bista family is a strategic weapon, so it is better not to use it at ordinary times. Every time it is used, it is like a thunder strike. If the knife is sharp and used frequently, it will become dull. It is enough for Magnate to solve some minor problems. If you want to tie Magnate to your chariot, you must not have enough benefits. The Bista family eats meat, and you have to let Magnate drink soup. Hearing Magnate's dissatisfaction with himself, Singh was not afraid and just laughed and said, "Look at what you said, Magnate. I can forget anyone but you. I've been so busy lately that I'm dizzy. I came to you to keep in touch with you as soon as I had some free time. Now I'm going to treat you to a meal at the best restaurant in town to apologize to you. What do you think?" Ha ha ha. Magnate is old, but he is not confused. He knows that Belcina is not an ordinary person and will soar into the sky sooner or later. He is just the first stepping stone for Belcina. Although he is an official, the gap between him and Singer is too big. If he can make enough profit to climb up or retire as a rich man, Magnate will be satisfied. He hopes that Belcina is a person who is nostalgic and can lend a hand when he encounters difficulties. There is no need for both parties to make the relationship more rigid. Now he is no longer a heavyweight like Singer, and he should correct his attitude. Otherwise, we won't even have friends. When he heard that Singh came from home and invited him to dinner, he knew that this little fox had other intentions. To be honest, it would be a good thing if you could be used. If no one wants to use you, then you will be useless. So he was very happy and agreed with a hearty laugh. "Well, it's been a few months since I last drank with you. I'm drooling when I smell the aroma of your maute. How about maute tonight? If it's not maute, I won't go. Ha ha ha. Maute, are you worth the price of maute?" But since it is related to the future layout of his family, he can only bear it. He rubbed his temple and said helplessly, "Maute will definitely be prepared for you. To be honest, your drinking taste is not that good. You will be unconscious after drinking a bottle of maute. Why do you have to hold on to maute? Isn't it better to drink some beer?" To be honest, Magnate is not interested in drinking beer. It's not a question of what to drink, but a question of how much status he has in Belcina's mind. This is a visit to make use of the topic. Although Belcina agreed reluctantly, he still agreed to it in general. This little fox must have something to ask of him. No matter what, he should quietly leave the port and bleed, otherwise how can he feel balanced? So he was very happy to hear that Belcina agreed to Magnate. After confirming with Singh again and again the time and place of the meeting, he hung up the phone. Belcina looked at the 2 bottles of maute on the table with heartache, gritting his teeth and scolding Magnate for being shameless, while frowning at the bewildered little Jamal beside him, and said with a smile, "You heard what I said just now. He blackmailed me for 2 bottles of maute. This greedy fat man deserves to die. If I didn't need him, I would even want to make him into ham alive and feed it to the dogs. When our family is strong enough, we will no longer be afraid of these vampires, big and small. Only then will our family really stand up. To be honest, it's not a good feeling to be slaughtered by others. A small mayor can blackmail Master Belsinger casually. You can imagine how terrible this political environment is. Money can settle everything. This is also the shortcut for Belsinger to develop the Singh family. As long as you have money, you can promote someone to the position of chairman of the independent state government. It depends on how much money you have. Anyway, there are still a few hours before dinner. Belsinger has been very tired these 2 days and plans to take a nap in the afternoon. When it was time for dinner, negotiating with the old fox, Magnate, was quite exhausting. If he was not focused, and the other party caught him and blackmailed him, Belsinger would have cried. He stood up and staggered back to his room and fell asleep, but little Jamal, who was sitting in the living room, had red eyes and blue veins on his hands. He tried his best to suppress his anger. His master was the absolute head of the Singh family and a god in the hearts of these servants. At a young age, he brought the Singh family to its current position. The scale and wealth are definitely rare in 100 years. He didn't expect that he would be blackmailed in front of a small mayor for his own affairs. How could these servants feel? His master endured these grievances for himself. If his ability reached a certain level, who would dare to blackmail his master? Chapter 230, finally caught the trap. At the same time, little Jamal also agreed with what his master Belsinger said. A good ironsmith must be strong himself. Without good armor protection, the Singh family is like a piece of white fat meat, wandering among these politicians who eat people without spitting out bones, and can be bitten at any time, or even swallowed into the stomach. This armored coat is the power in your hands. The higher you climb, and the greater your ability, the safer the Singh family will be. Your master will not be wronged. The so-called humiliation of the master is that they, the slaves, have no ability. The Singh family can give them everything, but what can these servants use to repay them? So little Jamal was extremely angry, but he soon calmed down, returned to his normal state and smiled slightly. Turned to the kitchen to prepare to boil water, because Master Singh had a habit of drinking a cup of hot tea to refresh himself whenever he woke up. A few hours later, there was just a movement in Belsinger's room, and little Jamal started to make tea. 10 minutes later, Belsinger even staggered out of the bedroom with his waist down and smelled the fragrance of black tea. Smiling, he nodded to little Jamal to express his gratitude. Sitting on the sofa, a cup of steaming hot tea was handed to him. Such a life is really wonderful. While drinking tea, Belsinger said to little Jamal beside him, "The dinner party later is related to your future position. No matter what harsh conditions the other party negotiates, you must endure it. When you have the ability, you can get justice for me. Now you don't have that ability, so you must endure it. Do you hear me?" Little Jamal usually has a very good temper and always smiles when talking to anyone, but when it comes to his own interests, when protecting himself, he will immediately become another look, baring his teeth and claws to eat people. Even if little Jamal can't stand being wronged and has an attack on the spot, everything will be over. It is necessary to remind him. Little Jamal sat aside and nodded with a smile, saying, "Don't worry, master. I won't make it difficult for you. Just as you said, without strength, our family will be at the mercy of others. What is strength? It is the umbrella of protection and the officialdom. The higher I climb, the greater the benefit to you. I will not destroy my future. Don't worry. When our family has strength, we will settle accounts with these bastards. This is my good servant." Belsinger patted little Jamal's knee in agreement, handed him a cigarette, and said with a smile, "Remember one thing, our family will become richer and richer, and problems that can be solved with money are not problems. If money can't solve it, then that is the real difficulty, and you need to do it yourself. So it doesn't matter if you lose some money, just make it back. What's the big deal, right? How can it be wrong? Your master has spoken, can it be wrong?" Little Jamal could only smile bitterly and nod. My master is really not an ordinary person, and the words he says are so classic. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems. Problems that cannot be solved with money are problems. At that time, I have to step in myself. I don't know if I can achieve the same result as the master. So little Jamal felt a lot of pressure. Bell saw this with his personality. He smiled and patted his leg and said, "Little boy, relax. I won't use you within 5 years, so try your best to climb up during this time. How high can you climb? How high can you climb? What resources can you use? The entire Singer family will revolve around you. Even if they use money to hit me, they have also smashed away for you. What are you afraid of? At this time, little Jamil said with a strange expression, Master, I can deal with those old foxes in the officialdom with ease. But I really have trouble dealing with those textbooks. Can I not go to night school? It's enough to know a few words. Why do I need such a high level of education? Belsinger patted his head helplessly. The people around him can do everything, including fighting and killing. But they can't go to school. Holding a pen is like holding a heavy burden. Is it really that important? When I, your master, took the college entrance examination, it was like 1,000 troops crossing a single plank bridge. I managed to snatch a university place by force, and I killed so many competitors. Why doesn't it work in front of you? Of course, going to college is a matter of the last life, so I kicked Jamil with regret, and scolded him with tears and laughter. You useless people, is it more uncomfortable to hold a pen than a knife? Letting you learn culture and cultural knowledge is to let you have a better development in your official career. It's terrible to be uneducated, so you must get a college diploma for supper. You must bring it back to me, otherwise I will deal with you. To be honest, Belsing overestimated the cultural level of Indian officials. How many of those officials are college graduates? Some people in high positions can't recognize a few big words, but they still handle documents. It depends on whether you study hard. A college diploma is still a stepping stone, and a solid stepping stone is useful everywhere. After chatting for a while, as the sun was setting outside, Belsina chose a clean long gown, followed by Jamil, who was carrying 2 bottles of Magnate, and staggered downstairs to get on a 3-wheeled vehicle. After turning a few corners, they came to the best restaurant in town, and arrived at the customized private room in advance. There was karaoke in the private room. After singing 2 songs casually, they heard lively voices coming from outside. The manager of the restaurant was greeting Mercator, and heard the footsteps. Mercator brought people here. This is eating the rich. Who made him rich? When it is time to bleed, you should bleed. Otherwise how can you get anything done? Not long after, the door of the room was pushed open, and the fat mayor staggered in first. Seeing Belsinger open his hands, the two hugged each other. Mercator patted the shoulder of Singh on his back, which made him grimace in pain, and then smiled and said, "You little brat, you waited so long to find me, isn't that too much? Today I'll bring people to eat at your house, see if you feel bad or not, ha ha ha." Being able to follow Mercator and attend the banquet he organized, it seems that these people on the other side are Mercator's trusted subordinates. After both parties sat down, they talked and laughed, and began to eat and drink. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Mercator knocked on the table to let everyone quiet down, and looked at Belsina in a daze and said, "Little guy, tell me, what do you want to talk to me about? I know you are very busy. You can invite me to dinner tonight, so you must have encountered some troubles. Tell me." Mercator is very observant. "Let me introduce you. This is the grandson of my housekeeper, and he is also my brother who grew up with me. He had a conflict with his family and couldn't stay there. Otherwise, his grandfather would skin him alive, so he didn't dare to go home. The conflict between the grandfather and grandson is very serious. Can you find a place for her to settle down in the town first?" Chapter 231. The bamboo leaf knocks loudly. Belsina was lying with his eyes open. Everyone in Sinjar town knew how loyal old Jamil was. No matter how big the conflict between the grandfather and grandson was, they would never see each other. "Then why are you, the master, mediating in the middle?" He lied without blinking, but Mercator had been silent in the officialdom for many years, and had seen all kinds of people. The other party was acting, so Mercator could only cooperate. So he nodded seriously, and cooperated with Belsina's nonsense. Little Jamil stood up after his master introduced himself, and respectfully poured a glass of Magnate to Mercator. He bent down 90 degrees, and said solemnly with the glass in his hand, "Thank you for your help, Mercator. If I go back, my grandfather will tear me into pieces. I can only hide outside for a while. Just as my master said, please let me drink first." After finishing the white wine in the glass, Mercator looked at Belsina with shining eyes and a smile. thinking about what the purpose of Singer's doing this was. But Belsinger's eyes were like a pool of stagnant water, and he couldn't see anything. In addition, such a sudden attack caught Magnate off guard. There are many things that have not been investigated clearly, and it is difficult to make a judgment. At the same time, he was also thinking about what benefits he would get if he agreed to Belsinger's request. Belsinger has been running around at home and abroad recently, and his goal is not small. If he can earn a little profit and a glass of wine, then his benefits will be unimaginably huge. It depends on whether he can come up with the conditions that Belsinger needs in exchange. It is not difficult to give little fake Mala position in the town. Not only is it not difficult, it can be said to be very simple. I'm the mayor, and I have the final say. I can find any reason to let Jamal take up a position. This is just a matter of my words. It is very simple for me, and not difficult for Belsinger. Belsinger actually came to me for such a simple matter. This is an opportunity for me to blackmail him, but how to blackmail him? It is a science. First, I'll let Jamal sit down, and showed my skills in chatting. They chatted enthusiastically, but they didn't get to the point. There was no clear statement of help or not. This was waiting for me to set conditions. Belsinger knew it clearly, so he knocked on the table to attract everyone's attention to himself, and then raised his glass to Magnate and said with a smile, Jamal and I grew up together, as close as brothers. He is in trouble now. Shouldn't I help him? So please help Magnate. All the people present were Magnate's trusted subordinates, and there was nothing wrong with it. It was selling official positions at a clear price. This is very normal in India. Seeing that he had made Belsinger impatient, he smiled and said, Singer, what position do you want to arrange for your brother? I will give you a clear price for how much it is worth. It depends on whether you can afford it. There is no problem that money can't solve. Belsinger smiled and extended a gesture of invitation, asking Magnate to tell him how much these positions with clear prices are worth. Although the Singh family needs money everywhere now, how much money can a small boss in a town use? Magnate was not soft-hearted. He smiled and asked his assistant to introduce Belsinger to the vacant positions he had. How much are the clear prices? There are fat positions in charge of the health department, the logistics department, and the transportation department. The idle government officers in charge of the household registration department are all clearly marked, and the most expensive one is more than 2 million rupees. This is the person in charge of logistics procurement, and the procurement is also all kinds of things needed by government departments. There are many tricks in it. It is a legitimate lucrative position. The annual profit will reach hundreds of thousands of rupees, while those in charge of household registration, transportation, and planning departments are all cheap positions. There is not much money. If it is a department head, the price is millions of rupees. If it is a small leader at the level of captain, the price is even cheaper. Humph, because little Jamal has a low level of education and no work experience, he can only master a cheap position to increase his experience and increase his experience. If he is really arranged in an important department, he really can't play it. So Belsinger didn't even consider it and decided on the spot that the head of the transportation department would be 1 million rupees. It is equivalent to 100,000 RMB to take down the transportation director of a town. Buying and selling officials has reached such a rampant level. You can imagine how terrible it is. This is a blatant extortion, and he has to pay it. After finalizing little Jamal's political position and the expenses spent, the mayor's face changed, and he waved his hand, and quickly asked his direct subordinates, as well as the insignificant people such as little Jamal, to evacuate the private room. Now there were only 2 people left in the room, Belsinger and Magnate. Magnate then lit a cigarette and took off the mask on his face and asked Belsinger seriously, Belsinger, you have been very active recently, wandering around the country and abroad. I heard that you are planning to set up a large plastic manufacturing base, and even boasted that you want to develop it into the Indian version of Yahoo. Am I right? Let's see the real show, right? Little Jamal's matter was just a prelude, and since his rebirth, he has been cooperating with Magnate quite happily. There is no conflict between the two sides. Although the other party has become a second-rate partner, Belsinger does not want to give up on him. The first reason is that Magnate has been in the officialdom for decades, and his experience can be said to be extremely rich. He is very proficient in all the tricks in the officialdom, even if he is an aide to himself. That was more than enough, and it would help him not to suffer too much when negotiating with those old foxes in the officialdom. He would not fall into the trap set by the other party, and then the loss would not be a small problem. The second reason for not wanting to give up was because of Magnate, who was a good person, although he was an old fox. But he knew the bottom line of being a man, and would only take the small profit that belonged to him, and would not be too greedy. His appetite was easily satisfied. Such people knew how to advance and retreat, how to make choices, and how to let the long line catch big fish. Belsina had nothing to hide, and said with a smile, "These are all facts. We got dozens of engineering vehicles from the Bister family, saving a large part of the extra expenses of engineering vehicles. The price paid was not small. Don't worry, I won't treat you unfairly. What do you think of 1% of the original shares?" It sounds like there is a big gap between 1% and the Bister family's 10%, but the Bister family paid a price. Magnate did nothing, and got 1% of the original shares. You can imagine how big the gap between the two sides is. Magnate was already very satisfied to hear that he had 1% of the original shares. Belsina was a good man, and did not give up on him, so he had no reason to give up such an important ally. Chapter 232. You are suitable to be a staff member. Although the two parties conducted the transaction privately, no legal documents such as contracts were signed. However, Magnate and Belsing have been cooperating for some time. Although Singh is not very old, he is steady. During the long cooperation, all the money transactions have been done without leaks. Every time a bribe is made to Magnate, it will be whitewashed. It is very simple to whitewash the bribe funds. The most effective way is the casino, gambling in the casino in the name of Magnate. Of course, this gambling was discussed with the owner of the casino. 20% of the funds were paid to the casino as a benefit fee, and then 80% of the funds were whitewashed. It was handed over to Magnate's wife. Although a large amount of money was lost in this way, Belsing will bear it temporarily. The Indian officialdom is quite chaotic, and it can no longer be described as officials protecting each other. As long as you don't do anything rebellious, you will basically not be dealt with. Everyone is making money in this way. Who can say who is black? Even if you know that Magnate is gambling in the casino, what can you do? So after whitewashing yourself in the casino, Magnate can keep the money in his own account without worrying about the inspection department's investigation. Even if they do, they won't find anything. At most, he can just spend some money to settle those people. So although the two parties did not sign any legal documents, Belsing will not deduct a penny from the mayor. As the saying goes, it is easy to see the king of hell, but it is difficult to deal with the little devil. If you dare to ignore the person who holds power right under your nose, you will be courting death. The original shares of the plastic products factory with an investment of tens of millions of dollars for no reason, although not much, are enough to ensure that the Magnate family has no shortage of money to spend. This makes Magnate very satisfied. The alliance relationship between the two sides has reached this level, and there is nothing to say. Magnate can be said to be a figure who can cover the sky with one hand in Sinja town. He is a standard local emperor, but he is nothing in Rajasthan. He is just a small person who can't be smaller. Even if the power group behind him ranks low in Rajasthan, it is not ranked at all in the entire Indian subcontinent. Small people also have the sorrow of small people. In recent years, Magnate has been making money by any means possible, and has handed over the laundered funds to the family behind him, hoping to climb up. However, the amount of money held by the family behind a small figure like himself is simply too huge. Moreover, resources are limited, and of course they are left to those peripheral members, who are of great help to the family. Although the amount of money Magnate has offered is not small, it is not worth it for the family behind him to invest a lot of resources to climb up because of his old age. By the time Magnate is sent to a high position, he will be about to retire, and what kind of benefits can he get? So the family behind him chose to abandon Magnate. This is the law of nature. Although there is some resentment, what can you do? Could it be that Magnate is willing to pull down the emperor without caring about the life and death of his family? Even if the family behind him is all exposed, he does not have the ability, let alone the courage. Being abandoned by the family he has served for a lifetime for no reason. Do you think this person can feel good? Drinking some wine to stimulate Magnate can be said to have poured out all his bitterness to Belsina. The eyes of a man in his 40s were red when he talked about his sadness, which made Belsina feel that, although he seemed to be an official with power on the surface, who could know the sadness behind it? Magnate had served his family all his life, but in the end he was kicked away like an old dog. He did not consider the feelings of the other party, and he was busy. What was he trying to do for the family behind him? After all, the replacement of the old and the new is a natural cycle. The old will definitely be slowly replaced by the young, and the former wave will die on the beach. The latter wave will continue to beat upwards. This is an unchangeable fact. He can only choose to accept it slowly. Belsina felt bad when he saw Magnate's grievance. He worked so hard, but more than 20% of the profits were taken away by these officials for no reason, and he became a worker. Do you think I'm wronged? But this is a social phenomenon. If you don't comply, you are an alien, and will be eliminated. If you don't pay tribute, these officials will make things difficult for you. You can still do business, and make money steadily, and dream about your spring and autumn period. It can be said that the two people at the wine table, one old and one young, each have their own difficulties, and they have their own grievances to express, coupled with the effect of alcohol. Let the two open their hearts, and have a good chat. Knowing that Magnate wants to climb up one step further, it can be said that the chance is slim, and he can only wait for retirement as the mayor of Sinjar. Although he was abandoned by the family behind him, he also left a position for retirement, and he can still be a local emperor for a few years and play some residual heat. It is also very useful to oneself. After all, the first step is to dominate the town of Sinjar before considering moving forward. Speaking out the truth today is equivalent to opening your heart to yourself, which is more conducive to the development of the Singer family in the town. After sorting out his emotions, he smiled and said to the fat mayor, "Isn't it better this way? The emperor is far away. Who can control you? There is a saying in China that it is better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of an ox. It is much better to have a small place to be the king and dominate it than to follow those big people and big families to drink soup. This is the thing, but after serving for a lifetime, the family actually abandoned me like an old dog. I feel wronged and angry. What do I want?" But the mayor is powerless to change these, so he can only sigh and say with a wry smile, "This is also a more merciful way for my family behind me. Let me retire in the position of mayor and get a pension. Ensuring that my family can live a wealthy life is already the best situation. I don't ask for anything. Some are worse off than me. People will die if they compare themselves with others, and goods will be thrown away if they are compared with others. As the saying goes, contentment is the greatest happiness," Belsina said with a laugh. "Then you should not be idle in the next few years while I'm in office. I will not treat you unfairly if you take charge of me. When you retire, you can come to me as my chief of staff. After all, you have been an official for a lifetime, and no one knows more about officialdom than you. How much will you pay me to be your chief of staff?" Magnate thought Belsina was joking, but when he looked up and saw Bel's clear eyes, his heart was touched, and he said seriously, "Belsina, you are serious? My salary is not cheap if you let me be your chief of staff." Belsina raised the glass in his hand, laughed, drank it in one gulp, and then said, "Your experience is the capital for your survival, and your experience is the most valuable. I will keep my promise. Being my chief of staff can make a lot of money, and it can also allow your family to live well in the new home. Isn't it good?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 233, Important Puzzle Piece. Seeing that Belsing was not joking, he extended a sincere invitation to join the Singh family as a staff member. Helping the Singh family deal with official affairs can also give full play to their spare heat. To be honest, the Singh family is too weak in politics. The only advantage is the economy, but the Singh family is young and vigorous. And they know how to be patient. Although Bel Singh, the head of the family, is young, he knows how to be patient and pay the price to protect himself. What is politics? Politics is mutual compromise. I agree to your request, you agree to my request, and the cooperation between the two sides is politics. Now the Singh family has nothing to lack, but it lacks this staff member to help Singh settle all the troubles in the officialdom. Shelter the wind and rain for the character family that has just grown into a seedling. When this seedling grows into a big tree, it is also the time for his own Kata family to harvest. It is also the time to get shelter. The cooperation between the two sides now is the true friendship in times of trouble, and it is also the basis of cooperation. Cooperation between himself and the Singh family is like sending charcoal in the snow. When the Singh family grows into a giant and cannot be shaken, what use will it be to add icing on the cake? Of course, showing one's skills in times of crisis is what a truly wise man should do. Although he was silent for only a few seconds, Magnate considered all the gains and losses of cooperating with the Singh family in his heart. After weighing the pros and cons, he planned to accept Bel Singh's proposal, although the relationship changed from an alliance to a master and a staff. The contrast is a bit big, but it is hopeless for him to climb up to a higher official, so he might as well consider the future of his family. Although it is a little difficult to accept, it is a habit. Isn't this a human trait? Just get used to it. So he, the mayor, stood up in person. He poured a glass of wine for Bel Singh, then clinked the glass with Bel Singh respectfully, drank the wine in the glass in one gulp, and then said with a smile, I accept Master Singh's proposal and join the Singh family. I will use my decades of experience to help the Singh family grow faster. When the Singh family grows into a behemoth, no one will be able to shake it. I hope Master Singh will respect his promise and protect the entire Kata family. At this time, Bel Singh also stood up from his chair and nodded heavily. You are an indispensable and important puzzle piece of the family. With you joining the Singh family, the development will be faster and stronger. You and I can dominate the entire Sinja town within 2 years. Only our men can play the role of leaders of important departments in politics. The whole town has to look at my face. Only in this way can we live happily and then develop like outside. I promise you that within 5 years, the Singh family can be called the first economic family in Rajasthan. There is nothing that money can't do, it's just that the amount of money is not right. You said. Magnate laughed and said with golden eyes, that's right, there is nothing that money can't do, it's just that the amount is not right. Since the master has such great confidence, of course I choose to support it with all my strength. The two people completed the transformation from quantity to quality. Magnate officially became the staff of the Singh family, responsible for all official affairs of the Singh family in India. In addition to the 1% of the shares of the plastic products factory given to Magnate, Bel Singh also took out 5% of all the income of the entire Singh industrial group as political funds, and invested heavily in winning allies in the officialdom, and looking for potential stocks to invest. And little Jamil will learn from Magnate from today, and will take over all the political power of the entire Singh family in the future. As a staunch ally and staff, of course, he will carry out his master's decision without complaint and train little Jamil with all his strength. Magnate will take care of all official affairs, and there is an old butler beside him to take care of all internal affairs. This is the formation of the left and right hands, and he is just doing a coordination job in the middle. As the saying goes, there are specialties in the art. Magnate's experience in officialdom is priceless, and it is also an important piece of the puzzle that the Singh family lacks the most now. Now it is completed. This further stimulated Bel Singh's ambitions, and the two studied at the wine table for more than an hour. The direction and measures that the Singh family will develop in Sinja town. At the same time, Magnate also strongly agrees with the implementation of Bel Singh's official training plan, and repeatedly warns Bel Singh, the people who are trained must take loyalty as the first priority. If this person is not loyal, you will train him to be the Prime Minister of India. They will also bite back. The first target to be eliminated is the Singh family. In this regard, the experienced Mayor Catter gave Belsing a lot of valuable advice. The first one is that eggs cannot be placed in one basket. All hopes cannot be concentrated on one person. This is not easy to control. Even if officials are trained, they need to maintain a balance. It is best to select several targets for training. The second one is the allocation of resources. Although the most outstanding officials have the most resources, however, in order to lay a solid foundation, the people who are trained should continue to move forward. The best one has 4% of the resources. The middle one has 3% of the resources, and the bottom one also has 3% of the resources. Who knows which one is a dragon, and which one is a worm? The third one is to capture the hearts of all the people in the town of Sinja and turn the town into an indestructible fortress. Let 80% of the people in the town work forcing industry and the Singh family. This is the power of the masses that cannot be ignored. It is also the most troublesome for the government. If 80% of the population in the town needs to rely on the Singh family to survive, then congratulations, the Singh family will be fearless. Only then will the entire Sinja town be run as the Singh family's base camp. No one can break into the steel fortress. You can imagine how glorious the Singh family will be at that time. As long as Belsinger is happy, he can appoint anyone to serve as the mayor of Sinja town. Each of these important proposals hits Belsinger's heart. Good suggestions must of course be followed and implemented, so that they can help the family. Then the two sides talked about Axe, who despised his family. Belsinger has never been able to figure out Axe's pulse, because he has not contacted the patriarch of the Axe family, and there is no way to judge whether the prince came to Sinja town to gild, or to grab the cake, or whether he came for the wealth of the Singh family. Mercator made a guarantee to Belsinger on this point. Axe Diddy is indeed here to gild his reputation, and the time will not exceed 2 years or even shorter. Before Axe leaves Sinja, the Singh family had better not touch Axe. Don't sideline him, as that would create a conflict with the Bista family. Although they have interests, they will not turn against each other immediately. However, if there is a chance, the Bista family will definitely take action against the Singh family. No matter what action is taken, it must be after Axe completes the gilding, before it can officially take over Sinja. Chapter 234, Inspecting the Construction Site. The most important piece of advice is that you must not be half-hearted when cooperating with the Bista family. Because the Bista family is so powerful, it is the top seat in Rajasthan, and one of the important families of the Congress party. But such a political giant unites to form a strategic partnership, which is what others dream of. With such a good political ally, how can you be half-hearted and anger the other party? In that case, the gains will not outweigh the losses. The behemoth of the Bista family cannot be shaken by money, so cooperation needs to be treated with caution. This is why Mayor Kata has served as the mayor of Sinja town for several years, and has run it like an iron barrel for a while. There is also a political family behind him as a backer, but Axe was airborne and quickly took away half of the power within 2 months. The political family behind Mayor Kata did not react at all, because the two families are not at the same level at all. How can they compete? In this way, the 10% profit of the plastic products factory is not spent unfairly, and it is the most important thing, to get the due return. As long as the money is not wasted, it's fine. With so many good suggestions, this staff member was not recruited in vain. It is really a great help to my family, and the harvest today is also great. The two of them chatted for a while, so they called in a few people outside. But the two did not show too much intimacy. It was still like before. To outsiders, it was just an ordinary interest connection and alliance relationship. This is also the advice given by Mayor Kata, that is, to keep a low profile and not expose your cards so quickly. After the banquet, Mayor Kata asked Little Jamal to report to his office tomorrow morning and then be assigned to the transportation department as a supervisor. He officially entered the core circle of Sinja town politics, had the power to decide the future of politics and all things, and also had the right to vote. In the future, he got rid of the straw hat of ordinary people and officially became an official, which made Little Jamal very excited. When he returned to his residence in the town, Belsina picked up the phone and called the old butler. On the phone, he introduced to the old butler in detail all the contacts between him and Mayor Kata. There was also the situation of recruiting staff, which was judged by the old butler who was old and experienced. Magnate has a 75% chance of surrendering, and there is a 35% reservation, so the real core interests of the Singh family cannot be allowed to be involved, and it remains to be seen. Belsingh also agreed with this point. People's hearts are unpredictable. Who knows when he will turn against them? It is still easy to use the people of the Singh family, and it is very reassuring. So at this stage, Magnate can only be exposed to the outer interests. As for the core level of the Singh family, only he and the old butler can control it personally. No one can get in touch with the real core interests of the Singh family. But the old butler also gave his own opinions. Although Magnate cannot be allowed to get in touch with the core interests of the Singh family, but this staff member is well recruited. Of course, the old butler agrees with both hands and feet, and congratulates the master. He has obtained another important assistant, and his Singh family can develop more perfectly and faster. In a word, Magnate needs to be used, but he cannot use him without reservation, and needs to keep a backhand. He could not be allowed to get in touch with the core position of the Singh family. He had to use him, but also had to be guarded. Belsingh followed the old housekeeper's advice unconditionally. After hanging up the call with the old housekeeper, Belsingh lay down on the bed and had a good rest. He had just finished breakfast the next morning. Little Jamal had already walked to the town government to report, and Belsingh, who had gotten up, drove to the production site of Singh Industrial Park with Will, the store manager, to inspect it. The construction team invited in Mumbai was indeed experienced. Although the site was very chaotic and noisy, all the processes were carried out in an orderly manner. With sufficient funds as a backing, the factory buildings and warehouses of the plastic products factory were built very quickly, and now half of the wall construction has been basically completed. In addition, the full power operation of the cement plant and brick factory is expected to be advanced by 20 days, which makes Belsingh feel very happy. One day earlier production means one day earlier seeing benefits, and one day earlier making profits. This is related to your own pocket, and you can't be careless. The on-site general manager Mabri is still competent. Basically, I live and eat at the construction site to supervise the progress of the project in person. Sometimes I take the supervision team to check the quality of the project everywhere. If there is anything unqualified, it will even be demolished on site and then rebuilt, although it wastes a lot of cement and bricks. But the quality is good. I asked if there were any problems that had not been solved at the construction site. The answer I got was that there was still a serious shortage of engineering vehicles. Otherwise, the construction efficiency could be doubled. After coming to the general manager's office and avoiding the noisy construction site, I called Axe and urged Axe again and again to send the engineering vehicles to me, and I got Axe's guarantee that it would arrive within 3 days. After all, the road from the capital city to Sinjar town is too difficult to walk. Then Belsingh got another more favorable news. That is, the Rajasthan government has held a meeting and decided to build a road from Udaipur to Sinjar town and will start construction soon. The total investment exceeds 1 billion rupees. Of course, the money is still allocated by the Indian Congress. The head of the Bista family just signed it. Although the government's work efficiency is low, who should I blame? The Bista family was very powerful in cooperating with this important ally. A special person was sent to keep an eye on the project, and it is expected to start construction within 2 months. I was happier to get this good news than to get a construction vehicle. After the traffic was improved, my shipments and purchases were fast, and the benefits were generated faster. Since I was happy to get what I wanted, Belsingh was also very generous, and my boss appeared at the construction site. I had to bring some benefits to the workers, so the lunch at noon that day was very rich. There was not only curry chicken, but also rare seafood. Each worker was also given a small bottle of beer and a box of cigarettes. Of course, the workers who received so many benefits had to work hard on the construction. After a round of solving some minor problems, I drove back home. As soon as I got out of the car, a small Tibetan mastiff as strong as a young brown bear ran out of the door and jumped and shouted around Belsingh. I picked up my pet and weighed it. Wow, the little guy has gained a lot of weight. It seems that the recent adequate diet has allowed the little guy to fully develop his body. Now he weighs 20 kilograms. It seems that the delicacies that I have imported from XZ at a huge cost have helped the little guy irreplaceably. According to the little guy's physical fitness, he will definitely be as big as a nation lion when he grows up. By then, his fighting power will be quite terrifying, and there is no need to worry about the wild beasts on the mountain coming down to harm the black goat. Chapter 235. A sumptuous dinner. The little guy was so happy in the arms of his owner, Belsina, that he wagged his tail, but his barking was different from that of ordinary dogs. Ordinary dogs bark, but the little guy belongs to the most primitive Tibetan Mastiff, and his roar is a bit like the roar of a lion, roaring from his throat. Although it is a little immature, its voice is deep, and it must be a brave Mastiff when it grows up. He held the little guy in his arms, and picked off some debris from its hair. While laughing and holding his pet, he walked into the living room, and saw his father-in-law and mother-in-law sitting on the sofa drinking tea and chatting. Seeing his son-in-law coming back from outside, the old man smiled, and said to Belsina, "How is it, Singer? Is everything going well? When I heard about your plan, I felt incredible, but seeing your happy look, it seems that it is not easy to succeed." The old man was really scared by his son-in-law's amazing appetite, which almost overturned his decades of concept. The official training plan sounds so domineering, but it is too difficult to implement. To force someone to get a job in a government department, one must rely on the family's strong financial strength and climb up little by little. The cost is really too amazing. But whether it can achieve the effect depends on God's will, because no one can judge whether this plan can succeed. Belsina asked the maid to take off his coat and put the little guy on the ground. Then he smiled and sat down on the sofa, took the black tea handed over by his mother-in-law, drank a sip, and then said to his father-in-law with a smile, "It's no big deal. As long as you are willing to spend money, you can do anything." Little Jamal is now the head of the transportation department in charge of Sinja town. The old man was surprised and asked with big eyes, "Those leaders actually agreed? It seems that the cost you spent is not small." Belsina couldn't tell his plan to his father-in-law. This was a core secret related to the character family. He just smiled and nodded and said, "It cost a little, but the result is still very gratifying. By the way, I have a good news for Dad. The government of Rajasthan decided to build a road from Udaipur to our town, which will make travel much more convenient in the future." Unexpectedly, the old man smiled bitterly and shook his head, sighed and said, "Singh, I admit that you are outstanding, and no young people can surpass you. But you are too naive. The government of Rajasthan has been building this road for decades, and has been shouting slogans. Do you think it has been built? I have no hope for the efficiency of those damn officials. If we really want to improve the traffic conditions, we have to rely on ourselves. It would be better to hang ourselves than to rely on those officials." The old man has completely lost his disappointment in government departments. This is a common phenomenon in mainland India. Government departments not only take money, but do not do anything. The slogans were shouted loudly, and everyone looked up to the sky, thinking that the sky is the boss, and he is the second. From top to bottom, they are blindly optimistic, and no one is convinced. But Belsina was 100% sure that the road would be built this time, otherwise the Bista family would lose the basis for survival to their ally. That is trust. What kind of ability is it to deceive your ally? Who will cooperate with your political family in the future? Can you be trusted? So the Bista family will not deceive themselves anyway. But it will take several years to successfully build this road, which is impossible, but there is hope anyway, isn't it? After the road is built in a few years, everything can be improved, but the waiting time is a little longer. The old man does not believe in the government, and Belsina does not believe it either. What Singer believes in is the promise of his ally to him. Just as the father-in-law and son-in-law were joking, several women who heard the news of their return home gathered in the living room and brought fruits and snacks. The family sat together and talked and laughed. Belsina looked at Lina, whose belly was slightly bulging, with love in his eyes. He personally helped his wife sit beside him and gently placed his ear on his abdomen, intending to listen to whether his eldest son had any movement in his belly. After listening for a while, he forgot about it, raised his head, and smiled bitterly at his family members who were laughing at him. The little guy is still quiet. What will happen to him when he grows up to be a lazy boy? The mother-in-law looked at her son-in-law's antics and said with a smile, look at what you said. How could my grandson be a lazy boy? He is less than 4 months old. Why are you so anxious? Belsina shook his head and drank a sip of hot tea. Then he smiled and said to everyone, what are we having for dinner tonight? To be honest, the food we ate outside these 2 days was not very good. Look at how thin I have become. Then he turned around and looked at Lina and asked with a smile, you knew I was coming back in advance, but you didn't prepare anything delicious. Didn't you dare to tell me? Were you afraid that I would be angry? Lina gently stroked her belly, looked at her husband, and said with a smile, you've lost weight. Look at how fat you are now. Who do you want to crush to death? When your master singer comes home from work, who dares not prepare delicious food? I killed a black goat especially for you, and prepared your favorite pepper-flavored lamb chops. I made a lot of special delicacies, which will definitely satisfy you, a greedy fat man. Ha 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 ha. Belsina was very happy to know that there was a big table of delicious food waiting for him. At this time, Lina had a very sensitive nose. She sniffed at Belsina, then frowned and said, you haven't taken a shower for a few days, and you smell of sweat. Then she looked at Natasha next to her and said with a smile, Natasha, take our master singer to take a shower quickly. The sweat smell is really bad. Natalie, prepare a set of clean clothes for our master and then go back to the room to rest for a while and we can have dinner in a few hours. Belsina was a very hygienic person. He would take a hot bath every day. The reason why he smelled of sweat was because he was sweating from working hard on the construction site. Then he rushed home without stopping. He had a sweaty smell on his body and felt uncomfortable. He said hello to everyone, took Natasha's hand, and went to the bathroom. He took off his clothes while watching Natasha preparing the bath water. He hugged Natasha from behind with a laugh and blew hot air gently in her ears. Wife, did you miss me? It seems to be a little fuller here. Natasha slapped Belsina's hands with a red face and said with a smile, while adding various essential oils and bath salts into the bath water. Who misses you, a big pervert? How can I miss you when I can't hide? The bath water is ready. Hurry up and take a bath. You are smelly. It's so bad. Want to run? Can you run? I'll take a bath. Belsina quickly took off his clothes. With Natasha half pushing and half reluctant, the two came and lay in the bathtub. The atmosphere became so fragrant. Chapter 236, Heavy Rain. The young couple tossed around in the bathroom for more than half an hour before they came out hand in hand in a relaxed manner. It is understandable that young people are impulsive. After saying hello to the people at home, they yawned and returned to their master bedroom, fell asleep on the bed. Because there are several more women in the family, they have returned to the sleeping habits of those wealthy families. Their own bedroom is their own. It is the master bedroom of the family. There is also a second bedroom prepared for the first lady, which is next to this bedroom. Now Lina has moved to the second bedroom to live. When they are not with Belsina, several women have their own independent bedrooms, and Lina, as the mistress, arranges the order of sleeping. When they come to the master bedroom to be with Belsina, the two sisters take turns to serve Belsina, changing shifts every day, so that Belsina can maintain the quality of sleep. After all, Belsina is a person who recognizes his bed. If Belsina is asked to rest in the rooms of several women in turn, he will definitely not sleep well, because of recognizing his bed. In the Singh family, the man is responsible for the outside affairs and the woman is responsible for the inside affairs. As the male owner, Belsing is of course the hope of the entire family. He must always keep a clear mind and sufficient physical strength. As for the women, can they rest in bed? It is secondary. At most, they can take another nap during the day. This sleep was comfortable, but I don't know, when I heard the sound of rain outside and the muffled hum of thunder, I opened my eyes and saw that the lights were on in the room because there was a very good central air conditioning system. The room was not as humid as before, but very dry. There was a bonfire in the fireplace. I stretched my body in bed, then sat up and lit a cigarette. I looked at the clock next to me and thought it was 7 o'clock in the evening when it was so dark. I didn't expect that it was only 5:30 in the afternoon when I looked at the clock. I heard the rumbling of thunder and rain outside, and the sound of hitting objects resounded everywhere. Put on your pajamas, put on your slippers, and go to the window. Open the blinds and look out. It's pouring rain outside, with thunder and lightning. This made Belsina frown. The rain this year is very frequent. Every few days, there will be a heavy rain of more than 1,000 meters. There is much more rain than in previous years, and the rainfall is particularly large. If it continues like this, there will be a flood. So Belsina is very worried. If the lake embankment on the back mountain can't withstand the dam collapse, then the stream on the mountain will be filled up in an instant, and when it comes to the bottom of the mountain, it will flood the farmland on both sides of the river. At that time, it will cause incalculable losses. It seems that it is time to open the floodgates, to let the lake on the back mountain flow out of the water storage. After smoking a cigarette, Belsina changed his clothes and walked out of the room. He came to the living room. Everyone in the family was sitting in the living room drinking tea and chatting. Belsina frowned and said excitedly to the experienced father-in-law next to him, "Dad, why do I feel that the amount of rain this year is more than in previous years? The number of heavy rains is more than double that of previous years. If it continues like this, it will be very dangerous. There may be flash floods and we have to be on guard." The old man heard that his son-in-law actually noticed this detail and nodded with approval. "I thought you had forgotten about it. I have already told the Singh family to pay attention to the amount of water in the holy lake behind your mountain. Open the gate to release the flood when necessary, so don't worry, I have already arranged it." But Belsina did not dare to take it lightly, because India's infrastructure construction is backward, and it is expected to continue to rain for several months. Every few years, a large-scale flood will break out, covering a large area, and the number of people affected can easily exceed 1 million. Although the Laga Valley is high in terrain and the water can be discharged smoothly, if a flood really breaks out in the low-lying town of Sinjar, his industry in Sinjar will be greatly affected. This is a problem related to his pocket. How can he not worry? When he thought of this, he felt like a grass had grown in his heart. Bel could no longer sit still. He stood up from the sofa and told the servant standing nearby, "Bring my raincoat and flashlight, and ask Butler Jamal and Brooke to bring people up the mountain with me. I will see the lake on the mountain with my own eyes, and then I can feel at ease. How dare I disobey the master's order?" The servant ran out and quickly rejected all the people. Belsina put on his coat, came to the front of the crowd with a flashlight, and said with a frown, "As you can see, it's raining heavily now. Although my father-in-law has made arrangements, but I'm still worried. Let's go to the mountain with me and take a look. Walk along the river to see where there is a danger of dam collapse. We must eliminate the hidden dangers in time." At this time, old Jamal frowned and said beside Belsina, "Master, we can go. You must be very tired after just coming back from the town. In addition, it is raining heavily and the visibility is not good. If you are threatened, what should we do? So please don't go, okay?" Belsina looked at his old butler and said helplessly, "My butler, I'm an adult now, not a child anymore. Besides, it is not that fragile. How can I feel at ease if I don't see it with my own eyes? If there is a danger of dam collapse, the crops on the farmland will be destroyed. I don't care, but our villagers will suffer. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go and see it with my own eyes to feel at ease." Seeing that their master was so persistent, everyone had nothing to say. The old butler and Brooke pulled Belsina's hand. Everyone lined up and crawled towards the back mountain with flashlights. The stream in the middle of the back mountain has now become a rushing stream. The water flow is more than 3 times the usual. Fortunately, the head of the Singh family in previous generations spent a lot of money to lay cobblestone banks on both sides of the stream and at the bottom. Each stone on both sides weighs more than 100 kilograms and can withstand the impact of the river. The river flow is very fast and makes a loud noise, so even if you speak in your ear with a shouting voice, you can't hear it clearly. After checking the river bank along the way, there was no danger of dam collapse. After bypassing several huge rocks, we came to the location of the small generator. I have retreated to the innermost position of the generator with 1 foot, and only the turbine fan of more than 20 centimeters is washed by the rushing river water. but the speed is still maintained at the highest speed because the river is very turbulent, so the power generation can be ensured and the safety of the generator is guaranteed. Then go up and come to the highest level of the Laga Valley. Crossing the stone embankment, you can see a large area of the mirror-like calm lake in front. This is the holy lake of the Laga Valley and the most sacred place. Dumping garbage and bathing are not allowed. Of course, only Belsina and his immediate family members can bathe in this lake. No one else can. Chapter 237. What are you most afraid of? What is coming? Right square bracket. The lake in the back mountain is not small, surrounded by dams made of large stones, and 4 or 5 streams converge in the lake. Then a flood discharge outlet is formed at the entrance of the valley, rushing down to moisten the entire Laga Valley. In the past, this lake was very calm as a mirror, with abundant aquatic plants and full warehouses of fish. But now it is different. The lake water has begun to become turbid because the water volume of several streams converging on the mountain is too large, which is not proportional to the speed of flood discharge. Therefore, the volume of the lake is getting larger and larger. If the floodgates are not opened for flood discharge in a few days, the lake will burst after a heavy rain. Then the mountain torrents broke out and became a disaster in the Laga Valley. Fortunately, the vegetation around the lake is very well protected, and there will be no branches, weeds and other debris mixed in the lake and pouring down. Let the flood discharge outlet be unobstructed. Seeing the character here, frowned and said to the old housekeeper on the side, "Butler, now is a time of urgency. Send people to guard the flood discharge outlet 24 hours a day. If there is another heavy rain, open the gate and discharge the flood immediately." The old butler is already several dozen years old this year. He is experienced and has seen all kinds of natural disasters. Although the lake on the mountain is as calm as water and has abundant water and grass, this lake was expanded from the original lake by the Singh family over a period of 15 years. It is surrounded by tons of rocks with a thickness of 15 meters. Some spice trees are planted on it. The roots of the trees emit a smell that prevents termites from building nests, so that the dam will not collapse due to ant holes. The original design can withstand floods once every 200 years. If the flood discharge channel is not blocked, and the gate can easily discharge floods, then the lake will not collapse at all. It seems that the situation is very urgent. Several mountain streams have already rushed down, and the quiet lake water has been muddied, but there will be no danger. But my master is not so experienced, and it is normal to be afraid, so I smiled and patted my master on the shoulder and said, "Master, don't worry. It's okay. The whole state of Rajasthan will be flooded. The lake behind our house will not flood. The 15-meter thick dam is not so easy to be destroyed." Bel Singh nodded in agreement. He did not participate in the dam that his family spent a huge amount of money to build, but he had a lot of information about the lake dam in his memory. The construction of the lake took more than 15 years. You can imagine how huge the project was. But everything is a precaution, so it is imperative to send someone to guard the flood discharge outlet 24 hours a day to make the master live in peace. It is very necessary to station someone by the lake to observe the water level at any time, to live comfortably without worrying about fear. After walking around the lake, no danger of dam collapse was found. This made Bel Singh feel very happy. Although this small lake is the holy lake of the Laga Valley, it can ensure good weather and good harvests in the entire Laga Valley. In the dry season, water can be replenished, and in the rainy season, the gates can be opened to discharge floodwaters to ensure the safety of the entire valley. There is no safety hazard in the valley. However, Bel Singh is still worried that the flood will affect his business and the construction of the factory. After coming down from the mountain with worry, he ate a sumptuous dinner like chewing wax. After dinner, he returned to the study and called the company manager in Sinja town. He asked them to be on guard against floods at all times, and all important financial information should be placed in high places, especially the newly built flood discharge ditches in Singer Industrial Park. They must keep them unobstructed. The building materials stores in the town should also move cement to high places, take measures to prevent floods, repair the courtyard walls, and prepare sufficient food in the kitchen. and let all the workers organize, with the Singer family paying for the workers to work hard and start to reinforce their houses and tell the workers to store some daily necessities in high places. If you encounter floods or any difficulties, you can ask the group company for help, and they will send bottled drinking water to the workers. To ensure the personal safety of the workers of the group company, we also asked everyone to form a mutual aid team. If a worker's family is affected by the disaster, the mutual aid team will do its best to help the worker's family to produce and save themselves. I have done everything I can. Now it depends on God's will. It has been raining heavily since I returned home. It has been raining for 3 consecutive days, and the rain has not stopped, and it has gradually increased. The weather forecast has begun to sound a red alert. Although Rajasthan is close to the India-Pakistan border and belongs to a semi-arid area, but the mountains are still very humid. This year's rain is very frequent and the rainfall is also heavy. Weather forecast experts estimate that the probability of a flood that occurs once in 50 years has reached 70%. Government officials throughout Rajasthan have begun to take action and organize the masses to fight floods and disaster relief. Regardless of the disturbances outside, the villagers in the Laga Valley live very steadily because the villagers over the age of 30 have participated in the dam construction project. Although we know how strong the Laga Valley is, the town of Sinjar has been hit by floods. The floods have begun to overflow the banks of several small rivers and gather in the town. In addition, the living facilities have been in disrepair for a long time, and the drainage is not smooth. The whole town has been soaked in 10 centimeters of flood water. Everyone has to wade through the floods, whether traveling or living. Even so, the heavy rain that threatens the sky has not stopped at all, and it is getting bigger and bigger, which makes Belsina very worried. After comforting the family members, he drove a commercial vehicle all the way here. The first place he inspected was Singer Building Materials Store. Because the deployment was made in advance, and the manager of the building materials store was instructed, he did not dare to neglect it. That night, he took the workers of the building materials store to carry out construction and reinforcement. The door was reinforced to half a meter and a cement retaining wall was built. Because the building materials store was rebuilt in order to prevent theft, the thickness of the cement wall reached half a meter, and it was all made of stones. The cement used in the middle is high-grade cement, which is extremely strong. In addition, there is a circle of sandbags outside the wall. The entire building materials industry can be said to be impregnable. If the flood does not reach half a meter, there will be no loss. In addition, Singh has allocated funds to store materials. The second floor of the building materials store is stacked with rice, flour, meat, vegetables and fruits, which can fully guarantee the monthly demand of all workers in the building materials store, including their families. The building materials store can be said to be impregnable. There is nothing to worry about. Then, I will drive to Singh Industrial Park with manager Weir. Good guy waded through the water all the way. Fortunately, the chassis of the commercial vehicle is high enough. It just passed half of the drum tower. It drove very slowly, but it also arrived at the destination. When I entered the gate, I saw that the construction site was bustling. Experts have warned that the 50-year flood is about to come. The most conservative estimate of the water volume is 80 centimeters. Of course, this 80 centimeters of water surface is different in different places. Singh Industrial Group Industrial Park is on high ground, and several wide drainage ditches have been dug. The ground inside the wild industrial park is being reinforced, and although it is a little damp, no water has seeped in yet. However, to be on the safe side, workers have dismantled all important production machinery and moved them to a higher place for unified stacking. Chapter 238. Be a conscientious businessman. Then, the drainage ditch was dug with an excavator and poured with cement on the periphery of the hillside where the machines were piled. Conservatively estimated, floods above 1.2 meters can be survived, so the construction site is in full swing, with people shouting, horses neighing, and machines roaring everywhere. What makes Belsina happy is that half of the engineering vehicles promised by the Bista family to him for private use have arrived, including 80% new excavators and brand new forklift trucks with a load capacity of more than 30 tons. They are busy everywhere in the industrial park, and there are even unexpected surprises. A 90% new 40-ton crane is waving its huge arms to undertake the main lifting tasks. The boss personally came to inspect the work in the heavy rain, which made all the workers feel very happy, and the boss made arrangements in advance. A large number of supplies were purchased to ensure that all workers and their families had the most basic living security and drinking water. Everyone can see what the boss is doing. The workers felt that the Singh family was too kind and their boss was too kind to help them, the workers, get through the difficulties. So everyone's enthusiasm for work was unprecedentedly high, shouting various slogans and busy with their work. Marbury, who had just gotten off the car and walked around, came over with a large group of helpers. The two shook hands and encouraged each other, and then Marbury introduced Bell. "Master, the things you told me to do a few days ago are now all in place. You were right. The flood is coming. Our Singer Industrial Park is at a high altitude and can withstand floods over 1.5 meters high. But the weather forecast experts have issued a message every day, and the warning has been raised step by step. Now it has reached a flood that occurs once every 80 years, which is not optimistic." Belsinger smiled bitterly and shook his head, looking at the busy scene, and sighed. "We have prepared everything that can be prepared, and we have reinforced everything that can be reinforced. We will do our best and leave the rest to fate. As long as the machinery is saved, and the lives of our workers are saved, we will definitely be able to resume production half a month after the flood. In addition, after the flood, large-scale restoration and reconstruction work will definitely be needed. At that time, both the brick and tile factory and the cement factory will usher in a sales peak. After the disaster, there is an opportunity. It depends on whether we can seize it. Everyone knows this very well. Although everyone is tired and exhausted in the face of resisting the flood, everyone can see the opportunities after the flood. However, as the vice president of the group company, Marbury's mind is not so simple. He accompanied Belsinger with a frown and inspected the various construction projects in the industrial park and the work of resisting the flood for more than 2 hours. When he came to the office, he sent his assistant away and then frowned and asked Belsinger to sit on the sofa. Frowning, he wanted to say something, but didn't dare to say it. Belsinger was very confused and asked in confusion, "Marbury, you look uncomfortable. Do you have something to say to me? If you have anything to say, just say it. I will fully consider your suggestions." Marbury sighed and said with a worried look, "Master, after a disaster comes an opportunity. Everyone knows this. But after a disaster, many unscrupulous merchants will hoard goods and sell them at high prices to make a profit. This will hurt the reputation of the merchants. I'm worried that you will be blinded by the interests and do the same as them. Then the reputation of our Singer industry will be ruined." Hearing this, Belsinger was very happy, really happy, happy from the bottom of his heart, laughing and took out the cigarettes in his pocket. He took out a cigarette and handed it to Marbury and lit it for him personally, then patted his shoulder and said with relief, "Marbury, you really surprised me. You are truly considering the Singer family, so you said such a thing. Your worry is not unreasonable. After every major disaster, those damn profiteers will make a fortune, and those ordinary people will be skinned and fall into an even more difficult poverty. Yes, doing so will bring huge profits, because we are in the building materials industry. Even if it is notorious, don't you need building materials to build a house? Will it affect us? No, but I feel very happy that you can say such a thing. You said this because you are considering the perspective of the entire Singer family. Don't worry, I'm not one of those unscrupulous profiteers. I will not be a profiteer who only cares about my own interests after a major disaster. The building materials produced by our Singer Industrial will not only be sold at a fair price, we will also provide assistance to those families in difficulty in reconstruction. If you have no money, you can buy and sell building materials in installments." When Marbury heard Singh say this, he excitedly stood up from his chair, took Belsinger's hand, and said with emotion, "Master, you really surprised me. I was afraid that you would be blinded by interests and do something that would anger the heavens and the people. I didn't expect you to think so deeply and have considered everything clearly. I was really a little worried, right? Ha ha ha." Belsina smiled with relief and shook his head and said, "You can consider this level. You have already regarded Zingo Industrial Company as everything to yourself. This is your awareness of being a general manager. I'm very happy. After the disaster, it is the time for us to show our talents in our careers, and it is also a good time to win people's hearts. No matter what kind of publicity we do at ordinary times, it is not as good as doing something for the people after the disaster, so that they will remember the forward singer industry. So we should hold an enlarged meeting to study how to arrange the reconstruction work after the disaster. The priority is to ensure that our own employees get effective help, and then we can consider other things. Don't you think so?" Marbury agreed very much. "Hold this meeting." It happened that all the heads of Singer industry gathered in the industrial park to guide the work of fighting the flood on site. It took a few minutes to gather everyone together, and then held a closed-door meeting to discuss a complete set of guidelines for post-disaster relief and reconstruction. Everyone also agreed with the decision made by their master. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make a name for themselves. Let these ordinary people see who is a conscientious businessman and who is a conscientious businessman who really cares about them. Let everyone recognize the products produced by Singh Industries and let everyone thank the Singh family for their contributions. No matter how much money you spend on advertising, it will come more directly and quickly. So the first point of the final decision is that Singh Industries, after the flood, all factories must go all out to start production. The building materials produced will be sold to the victims at a fair price to help them rebuild. The second point is to increase the intensity of installment payments. In the past, the cost of building materials was repaid in 10 installments. Now Shingdadeo will repay the purchase cost of building materials in 20 installments, with a maximum period of 3 years. The third point is to carry on the Singh family's previous traditions, to help the disaster victims with guidance in reconstruction work, and to help those illiterate people who cannot read a single word, to build houses after the disaster. Chapter 239, 100 Years Flood. In order to facilitate the control of the situation, Singh left the old housekeeper in the Raga Valley to deal with all the family affairs. He lived in the house above the town with the young people in his family and watched the changes in rainfall and the changes in the water on the streets through the balcony every day. What is very frustrating is that the rainy season in Rajasthan is indeed not peaceful, and the forecasts made by those meteorological experts are still very accurate. However, although it is accurate, the forecast is too optimistic and realistic. It is really an environmental wash. The difference is too big. The heavy rain has not decreased at all since a week ago. Not only has it not decreased, but the rainfall is increasing every day. It can be said that it is pouring rain, and it rains 24 hours a day. The level of the forecast is rising steadily. On the second day, when Singh came to the town and personally directed the disaster relief work, all the rivers near Sinjar town overflowed the embankment, and the floods rushed into the town. Although Magnate took the leaders in the town to inspect and also guided the disaster relief work and prevention plans, but the plan could not catch up with the rapid changes, and the flood finally overflowed the embankment. After only 6 hours, the flood had risen to 70 centimeters. Some low-lying areas even reached a height of 1.5 meters. After being washed and soaked by rainwater, more than 99% of the low-rise adobe houses collapsed. A large number of refugees poured into the corridors of the buildings in the town. Everyone brought large and small packages of things and came to the sturdy corridors of the buildings for refuge. Although the mayor appealed through the radio station to let the residents living in the town open their doors and help the homeless refugees as much as possible. But Indian society is a deformed society. The status of people varies greatly, and they don't even want to let the untouchables touch their own shadows. How could the high-caste masters open their doors and allow the untouchables to enter their homes for refuge, and they also have to give them food and drink? The government's appeal is good, but there are really few people who really do so, so the entire corridor is filled with refugees. Drinking water is particularly scarce, and there is not much food. The elderly and children cannot go out to defecate, so the corridors are smelly and dirty. But this is not the end. As the river overflows the embankment, the water level in the low-lying center of Sinjar town is rising steadily, and now there is a power outage. Because the building materials store is just opposite, Belsina shouted on the balcony that the building materials store opposite would hear and make preparations in advance. The waterproof embankment was raised to a height of 2 meters and the thickness was also increased. Although it was washed by rain, the high-grade cement was very useful and could completely withstand the invasion of floods. However, the streets of the entire town formed a vast ocean with a depth of 1.8 meters. It was very dangerous to walk in the flood without taking a boat. You could be washed away at any time and anywhere. Such a crowded corridor suddenly had so many people, and the public security situation deteriorated sharply. As the flood siege lasted longer, the food and drinking water of the residents living in the corridor began to decrease slowly. Every few minutes, screams and fighting sounds could be heard from the corridor. This was everyone competing for limited drinking water and food. If the flood besieged them for a few more days, a fight would have to break out in the corridor. At that time, it would not be a public security incident, but a real violent incident. So although Belsina was accompanied by 5 or 6 strong male servants with guns, he did not dare to let the refugees enter his room for refuge. The only thing he could do was to rely on the strong supply reserves. He made some simple pilaf, flatbreads and some fresh vegetables, pickled with salt, and distributed them to the refugees. Drinking water was extremely scarce. The building had already been cut off from electricity and water. The limited 10 boxes of drinking water could only be distributed, and food had to be made for the refugees. You can imagine how tight the water supply was. Don't you think this is ironic? Outside, there was a huge flood. The height of the flood on the street had reached about 2 meters. But the residents living in the building would still struggle to drink a sip of water. Whether in rural areas or big cities in India, the sanitary conditions were very worrying. It would be a pity if there was a flood with garbage everywhere. All the toxic and harmful garbage was washed out, and the streets were filled with dead bodies of various animals, and occasionally dead bodies of people could be seen. Is such water drinkable? If you drink such dirty water, there will be an epidemic, and you will die faster. When the flooded Sinjar town reached a height of 1.5 meters, all official institutions in the town were paralyzed. Now the flood has reached about 2 meters, and even Mayor Kata and his family can only survive with their own strength. Since Sinjar town is located near the mountains, it is too remote, and the traffic conditions are really worrying, and it has been washed by the flood. Even if there are relief supplies outside, they cannot be transported in. Telephone, electricity, communication, and water sources are all cut off. It is almost the end of the world. This makes Belsina, who has not experienced a major disaster, feel very scared. After being besieged by the flood for 3 days, Belsina also stopped providing water and food to the refugees, and closed the door tightly. Sent people to guard 24 hours a day. If there is any movement, and someone dares to break in and threaten Belsina's personal safety, he will choose to shoot without hesitation. The noise in the corridor is getting louder and louder, and there are cries and fighting everywhere. You can also follow the toilet pipes and hear the doors of some rooms upstairs being violently broken open. Then the crazy robbery began. You can imagine what kind of state the owners of those houses and the people in their homes are in. But the flood has not yet receded, which makes Jamil and Brooke very nervous. The two finally found Bell, who was staying in his room. Singer frowned and persuaded him. Master, the situation is too urgent now. I know we have guns in our hands, but there are still people peeping at the door. Sometimes you can hear the sound of prying the door and pressing the lock. We must change the status quo and let you go completely. Otherwise those refugees will rush in, and we will all be finished. Belsina certainly knows how urgent the situation is now. Hundreds of people are squeezed into the narrow corridor and there is no place to sit or stand. It would be strange if I wasn't nervous about the extreme shortage of food and drinking water. Between being starved to death and being robbed, everyone knows which side to choose. But now I'm trapped by the flood, and the first floor is half flooded. How can I escape? I can swim back. Just across the street is my building materials store base camp, where more than 20 building materials store workers and hundreds of family members are stationed to ensure my safety. But how can I get there? I can climb the wires. I'm not a monkey. I want to get out, but how can I get out? It's a dilemma for everyone. What should I do? How can I get out? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 240, Crazy, All Crazy. Little Jamel and the human mule Brooke looked at each other and saw that they were both frowning. There was no good way. But the corridor was getting more and more chaotic. If those damned desperados rushed in, they would not be able to kill hundreds of people even with guns. Just when everyone was frowning and silent, they heard that the corridor was getting more and more chaotic. Belsina hurriedly ran out of the room with his men. Looking out from the balcony, the door of the unit in the building was a river of blood. The red blood flowed far along the river, and some incomplete limbs were thrown out of the window. These bodies included the elderly, more children, and women. The whole corridor was in chaos. It was a hell on earth. All kinds of screams filled the whole building. Belsina was already scared enough. In addition, because it was closed, he thought that only the building he was in a state of chaos. But he didn't expect to hear screams from a distance. Looking forward along the sound, all the high-rise buildings in the center of the town, even the rooftops were in a large-scale riot. The young and strong people, whose eyes were red with hunger, had no reason at all. They just wanted to rob some food to survive, and to rob half a bottle of drinking water, so that they would not die of thirst. At this time, they heard the sound of knocking on their security door. The 4 bodyguards guarding the door had already taken out their guns. Their heads were already sweating non-stop. These hungry people didn't care if you had a gun or a fire stick in your hand. They only had food and drink in their eyes. If their needs for food and drinking water were not met, they would start eating people. At this time, because of the excessive pressure, Rosebrook, the human flesh, had begun to go crazy and took out the pistol from his waist. When he came to the security door, he opened the safety and fired 3 shots through the security door. The 3 bullet holes were still smoking, and screams came from the other side of the security door. It hadn't stopped for a few seconds, and the sound of destroying the security door was getting louder and louder. The poor quality security door has begun to deform. Through the cracks in the door, you can see the zombies who have lost their souls due to excessive hunger. The number of refugees who are trying to rush in with red eyes is too large, although they don't have lethal weapons in their hands. But because of the large number of people, if they rush in, not to mention a few people, even dozens of people can't stop them. At this time, the human mule Brooke, with red eyes, looked at the 4 companions standing behind him with guns, and shouted and cursed loudly. What the hell are you doing? Shoot. If these beasts rush in, will the master still have a chance to survive? Is there still hope for the Singh family? You idiots are holding guns and fire sticks in your hands. Open the safety and shoot these bastards to death. The 2 bodyguards holding AK-47s looked at each other and turned back to look at their master who was at a loss on the balcony. They all felt that what their head human mule Brooke said was right. If their master was crippled or even killed by these people, then the Singer family would have no hope of rising. Then do these people still need to live? Is there any guarantee of survival? If you don't make a decision, you will suffer the consequences. Now is not the time to be merciful. Those hungry people can't do anything, so the 2 of them looked at each other, opened the safety, raised the AK-47 in their hands and spit out flames. They only heard a burst of bullets, and the security door was shot into a sieve. Human blood poured in through the cracks in the door, and screams could be clearly heard from outside the door. Then it fell into a deathly silence. Just when everyone was changing magazines, they heard shouts and running sounds from outside the door. Those hungry people began to roar and began to hold various weapons, preparing to pry the door open to enter. Belsina could clearly hear the crazy shouting of the people outside, intending to rush in and cut him into pieces. These people were so hungry that they were almost eating human flesh. Their fat bodies were their favorite food. At this time, Brooke, who was a human flesh, held his pistol with red eyes and started shooting at the door, shouting while shooting. Seeing that things had developed to an irreversible point, Jamel quickly pressed Belsina under him. Then he shouted loudly to Sing, a building material store a few dozen meters away. Damn Will, have you figured out a way? Those hungry people are about to rush in and cut our master into pieces and eat him alive. If the master dies, you can't live, and your entire family can't live. Hurry up and find a way for me. It will be too late if you don't act. Now the store manager of the building materials store and the workers and family members of the building materials store have clearly seen what the opposite building is like. The good guy was almost covered in blood, shouting everywhere, chaos and madness everywhere. Jamal didn't say anything. They all saw people eating each other. So now Will and the families of the workers in the building materials store are in a panic. Some are removing door panels and even starting to remove beams. They are preparing to make a simple raft to cross the dozens of meters of floodwater, hoping to rescue their master from the room. Maybe because of nervousness or because of lack of experience in shipbuilding, they made several rafts, some large and some small. The big ones couldn't get out, and the small ones were washed away by the water. They even lost 2 workers in their 40s who were washed away by the flood and their lives are unknown. Looking at the room with flashing guns and flames, Will wanted to die. He jumped up and down on the 2nd floor and yelled and cursed at the workers who were making rafts. Hurry up, if it's any later, the master will die. Everyone's survival depends on the master. Prepare these supplies in advance. The master is in a dangerous situation now. Those damned evil and crazy lowly people are eating and skinning people alive. You can't bear to see it. Hurry up and follow me. The more afraid and anxious he was, the more careless he was in his work. He paid the price of another person. A raft was just put into the water and it immediately disbanded. It's over. This time it's completely over. The door panels and beams have been dismantled. There is no more wood to build a raft. Seeing that the bodyguards of the Singh family have gathered on the narrow balcony between the systems for the last resistance, his master looked at the chaotic crowd on his side with lifeless eyes. He knew that they had tried their best. 3 people had died, and no more could die. Bel Singh even felt the coming of the end of the world. Looking at the anxious crowd on the opposite side, he laughed miserably and shouted loudly. 3 people have died in Will. Don't try to get over by rafting. You must protect the safety of the workers and their families at all costs. Let them survive safely after the disaster. If you can survive, tell Lina how much I love her. How much I love our children. It's a pity that I can't see my own son being born. After saying that, he pulled out a pistol from little Jamal's hand and turned to shoot. A volley of bullets was quickly fired, and only the last bullet was left. Bel Singh slowly raised the pistol and pointed it at his temple. Everyone knew what he was going to do. Will on the opposite side was so excited that he wanted to jump out of the window and swim over, but he was hugged by the workers, crying and shouting madly. Master, you can't do this. You can't die. We are trying to save you. You must hold on. What will we do if you die? Hold on. Chapter 241. Hell on Earth. What the store manager Will said made Bel Singh feel both amused and helpless. Who would want to die if they were not forced to do so? Looking at those disaster victims with dark skin and bones and red eyes, drooling at his fat body, if he didn't die, he would be eaten alive by them. Rather than being bitten to death by others, it is better to die quickly. I'm the master of my own life, and no one can threaten my life. But unexpectedly, Will's crying and shouting in the building materials store opposite attracted the attention of Jamal and Rosebrook, who were doing their best to hold up the balcony iron door to prevent the refugees from rushing in. The 2 of them looked back in their busy schedule. What a guy. He was scared to death. At this time, Bel Singh was about to pull the trigger, and Jamal, who was quick-eyed and quick-handed, pulled him down, knelt beside Bel Singh, hugged Singh's thigh and cried, Master, you can't go this far. It's not the time of life and death. Can't we protect you? Even if we are eaten by these damn slaves, we won't hurt your hair. Brooke, the human mule next to him, was covered in blood, but kneeling on the ground, tears streaming down his face. He slapped himself and cried. It's our servants' incompetence that put the master in such a situation. But don't worry, master, even if we die without a burial place, we can't let them hurt your hair. After saying that, he stood up and shouted at the building materials store opposite, you bunch of rubbish, you still care about casualties at this time. If the master is hurt, none of you can escape. Hurry up and find a way to get the master out. I'll give you the last 5 minutes, otherwise it will be irreversible. After seeing that the gun that Bell was going to use to commit suicide was taken away by Jamal, Will breathed a sigh of relief and didn't jump off the building. Besides, there was water below, and if he jumped down, he would disappear. He wiped the tears from his face and quickly organized people to dismantle the beams. They even packed the perlite used for heat insulation and moisture absorption on the beams, and tied them under the beams to make a raft. Brooke, the human mule, was tall and strong. When he stood up from the ground, he saw the action on the other side. Several of his men had already stepped on the balcony wall, and their bodies were stretched like wood, holding the iron door on the balcony tightly. They didn't let the damn hungry slaves rush in, but you can block the iron door. Can you block the window glass? I don't know if these guys are sober or what. Someone actually brought a wooden stool to smash all the glass on the balcony. They wanted to use this method to force the feet of the guys who were holding the door to be disabled so they could rush in. After all, the weather in the Indian subcontinent has never been below 10 degrees, so the poor are basically bare-chested. Even the rich are only wearing a pair of leather sandals. Their feet are all scratched by glass shards from the ground, and it hurts to touch them. How can they hold the door tightly? Can't they rush in? Unfortunately, although they were thinking about common sense, the Belsina family was rich. Their bodyguards and even all servants were equipped with real leather shoes, so the broken glass really couldn't do anything to Belsina and his party. On the contrary, the refugees who were bare-chested and starving were stabbed so hard that they bled and fell to the ground holding their feet. They cried and rolled, and some even cut off their toes. As the saying goes, the heart is connected to the fingers, and the pain of the toes is unbearable. Belsina was about to breathe a sigh of relief, but he didn't expect that there were several strong men behind these refugees who were red-eyed and wanted to eat human flesh. They ordered everyone to go back to the bedroom, take out the mattress and even the clothes in the closet and wrap them around their feet to continue the attack. Little Jamal noticed the problem of Bell's character. Seeing these people in charge, there was disbelief in their eyes, and then they became extremely angry, jumping and cursing. Damn the remnants of the high-caste family, it turns out that you are the ones who are causing trouble. The people behind the master are from the high-caste family. I didn't expect that you would pity these people and let them go, but they turned their backs on you. They organized the attack on you. Belsina felt very incredible when he heard this, but he saw the sturdy middle-aged men hiding behind the crowd. He didn't know them at all. Belsina didn't know them, but little Jamal, who has been dealing with these villages in the mountains for many years, and the human Rod Brooke knew the other party's details. Finally found the real owner, which made the human Rod Brooke furious. With red eyes and bloody hands, he waved his fists at the organizer hiding behind the group of people and cursed. I say Akayaxi, I didn't expect it was you guys. If I don't die today, I'll skin you alive after the flood. I'll peel off your skin, damn trash. Come forward and see how I kill you, the running dogs of the Kayaxi family. Only then did Belsina figure out why these people dared to attack him. He didn't expect that he was kind-hearted and let the ordinary people of the Kayaxi family go to make a living instead of killing them all. He was kind-hearted and let such a group of ungrateful people go. It's not redundant for him to die here today. Who made me kind-hearted? Who made me not kill them all? Who can I blame for ending up in this situation today? Belsina calmed down at this time, looking at the people of the Kayaxi family standing outside the crowd, pointing and laughing in this direction. His expression became very calm, and he took out a half pack of cigarettes from his pocket and lit one lightly. He leaned against the window of the balcony and looked at the two groups of people who were kicking each other across an iron gate in front of him and burst into laughter. At the same time, he secretly hated his cowardice and his remaining kindness, and actually let the tiger go back to the mountain instead of choosing to kill it all. After falling into this situation today, he needed to learn a lesson. No matter whether his enemies were old or young, male or female, he should only have one word in his mind, that is, kill. This lesson alone was enough, and he could not leave any troubles behind. When he had just smoked half of a cigarette, this group of remnants of the Kayaxi family who wanted to kill him actually brought out a gas tank from the kitchen and lit a lighter at one end of the plastic pipe that transported gas. With a puff, the plastic pipe of the gas tank burned like a flame nozzle. Then the remnants of the high-caste family began to take care of the crowd and retreated to the side, trying to stuff the ignited gas tank into the balcony. Then let Belsina and the gas tank explode together and finally die without leaving any residue. At this extremely urgent moment, unexpectedly, the building materials ship opposite cheered, and the store manager could be heard crying and shouting. "Damn Marbury, you damn old man, why did you come so late? Hurry up and build a ladder to rescue me. It will be too late if you are late. The other party has already ignited the gas tank. If it explodes, we will be killed." Chapter 242. Watch them to death. Belsina heard Will's shouts clearly. Looking back, the entire building materials industry was in an uproar. The workers and their families who stayed behind stood by the wall on the second floor and cheered loudly, raising their hands to help direct Marbury. At this time, the only person on the balcony who did not participate in the battle was Belsina. He leaned on the balcony window and looked out. Wow, a simple raft made of oil and gas barrels, steel bars and wood was floating down from the upstream. It was floating down slowly from the upstream. What made people feel incredible was that this simple raft had 2 diesel generators arranged in front and back, and the propellers driven by it could sail freely in the water. The raft was very large and very strong. It was the raging flood that made this monster float. If it were on an open space, 100 people might not be able to lift it. There were more than a dozen people standing on the aircraft carrier aft in this raft. The tall bamboo trunks were helping the raft to maintain balance, and Marbury, wearing a raincoat, stood in the middle. With an anxious look on their faces, the people controlling the raft quickly moved towards Belsina. They were saved. The moment they saw Marbury, they knew they were saved. They clapped their hands with laughter and shouted loudly to the people who were struggling behind them. "Hold on, Marbury has already paddled the raft to pick us up. As long as we survive, there is hope. Who of you has a good memory? Remember the faces of those who attacked us. After the flood, no one will think of running away. Ha ha ha, sir, don't worry. These minions who attacked us, let alone those few, we all know the leaders. They are all from the high-caste family. Don't worry, sir, none of them can run away. This time, you must not be merciful. You must kill them all. I will kill them with my own hands and peel off their skins." At this time, the raft had slid downstairs. Although Belsina lived on the 3rd floor upstairs, the flood had already submerged the 1st floor downstairs. Now they have reached the edge of the 2nd floor, and the height from the raft is only more than 3 meters, but Belsina's weight is too great. If he jumps from more than 3 meters high, his foot must be broken. But if he doesn't jump down to get the news, these damn thugs who are attacking will tear him to pieces. What should he do? What should he do? Just when Belsina was anxious, Jamal organized people to take off their clothes and tie them together to form a long rope. When Master Singh was counted down from the upstairs, he didn't expect to hear the sound of metal collision from the iron window of the balcony. When he turned around, Belsina almost went crazy with joy. An iron ladder with a hook was just placed next to the balcony window. It was only 30 centimeters wide, but it was very strong. It was enough to bear his weight of nearly 200 kilograms. At this time, Jamal held the hook of the iron ladder with both hands to stabilize the ladder. Looking at Belsina, he smiled after surviving a disaster and hurriedly greeted him. "Master, climb down the ladder quickly. We are finally saved. Ha 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 ha, may Shiva bless us. May Shiva bless the Singh family. We are finally saved. Now is not the time to be humble." These refugees with red eyes listed themselves as the first target to be killed. As long as they escaped, their confidence would be half gone. In addition, Brooke, the human flesh LUO, would personally guard the rear. With his size, he could deal with 10 or 8 people with his bare hands. So he quickly climbed down the iron ladder where little Jamal lived little by little. When his feet landed on the simple raft, Bell felt that he had gone from hell to heaven. He rushed over and was blocked at the door of his house. He was almost eaten alive. He didn't expect that he could escape by himself. Isn't this the power of God? Because the flow rate of the flood was too fast, even with the front and rear propellers to stabilize the raft, it felt like it was shaking from side to side. Sitting on a blanket in the middle of the raft, he looked up and saw that little Jamal had finally turned over and slid down the iron ladder and landed. The raft was more than 100 times more sensitive than his own. It seems that his body shape should be changed. If he continues to eat, he will definitely get obesity. After little Jamal, all the members of the personality family were stripped off one after another, and the last one left was Brooke, the human mule. At this time, the bullets of the AK-47 had been used up, and there was only 2 pistols left. After all the bullets were used up, there was no one to support it. The iron door of the balcony was finally knocked open by those people and rushed in. At this time, it was no longer realistic for Brooke, the human mule, to climb the ladder bit by bit. If these people caught him, he would only die. And he was not tortured to death cruelly. His master was safe, so it didn't matter whether he died or not. So Brooke laughed and stepped with his 2 long legs, crossed the balcony window in an instant, and then fell straight down. He hit the wooden board and bounced up more than 1 meter high with a bang. He fell down but fainted immediately. At this time, on the balcony, the frustration of not catching Belsina made these people go crazy. They took all kinds of furniture in the house and threw them down from the balcony window. There were pots, pans, sofas, chairs, coffee tables and everything else. Fortunately, the raft made by Marbury was big enough, and with more than a dozen people holding bamboo poles and shouting slogans, they moved more than 2 meters horizontally. They avoided all kinds of debris above their heads, and then tried hard to get closer to the other side of the street, but the difficulty was too great. There were tall buildings on both sides of the street. 2 walls were formed, and there was a slope from top to bottom. In addition, the water volume was too large and the flow rate was too fast, so it was very convenient to go downstream. But it took a lot of effort to ferry to the other side. After more than 20 minutes, Belsina came to the 2nd floor window and stepped in. Surviving the disaster made everyone feel incredible. Whether they knew him or not, they all hugged and laughed. Finally, he survived. Finally, he was not eaten by these damn refugees. His fat was finally saved. Patting his big belly, Belsina felt very happy, but when he turned around, he saw that the house where he and Lynn lived, when they went to school, when they were young was actually set on fire by this group of thugs. Although he was very angry, Bell laughed out loud, and his cold and emotionless words rang in everyone's ears. I believe you also know that the organizers on the opposite side are all from the Kayakashi family. No one in this building can come out alive. Keep an eye on them. If one of them comes out, I will kill them. The street is less than 20 meters long, and there are AK-47s facing each other, which can block all escape routes. Of course, if these people jump out of the window on the other side of the building to escape, there is nothing we can do. But the AK-47 has just been used up, and it is not realistic to have to return to the Lager Valley to replenish all the bullets, so at this stage, we can only send people to keep an eye on them and prevent them from jumping into the water to escape. Nothing else can be done. Chapter 243. After a great disaster there will be a great epidemic. Will agreed and quickly let Belsina, who had been frightened for several days, lie down on the bed to rest. But can he sleep now? The total number of workers in the entire building materials industry is more than 20, and their families are more than 100 people. The first floor of the building materials store has been completely flooded, and now only the second floor is home to hundreds of people. The limited space can be said to be crowded. Usually everyone takes turns to rest. If you occupy the room of the general manager, where can you let these people sleep? Now there are nearly 20 more big men, and it is a problem whether the supplies are enough to last a week, so Belsina refused to rest. He called Manager Will aside and asked in a low voice, "Will, I asked you to stock up on supplies before the flood. How much supplies are left now? How many days can it last?" Will scratched his head with a wry smile, sighed, and said to Belsina very embarrassedly, "Master, I did as you said, but there are too many family members who came to our building materials store for refuge. The number of people has reached hundreds, so the supplies are still very tight. There are a lot of rice, flour and vegetables left, but the only ration supply is drinking water. You know that people can't stand without water. 2 days ago, I distributed the drinking water quota. Each person only has half a bottle of mineral water a day. Even so, it can only last about 10 days. If the flood does not recede within 10 days, the consequences can be imagined. The original number of people can only last for 10 days, plus more than 20 people. It is good to be able to last for 6 days. People can survive for a week without food, but in the humid environment of India, they can't stand not drinking water for a day. But there is a flood outside, all water, can you drink it? If the flood does not recede within a week, the building materials industry will be out of water, which makes Belsing feel very anxious. The two people whispered in the corner, and then Belsing's face changed suddenly, which was seen by Marbury, the vice president of Singh Group, and he knew it clearly in his heart. It seems that the building materials store has run out of supplies, otherwise the master wouldn't be so anxious. He walked forward with a smile, patted Belsing's shoulder and laughed. Master, I know why you are angry. Is it because the building materials store has run out of supplies? Don't worry. When I came here, I had already instructed the industrial park to make a second draft. In 2 days, they will carry sufficient supplies to support us. What are you afraid of? Belsina looked at Marbury in surprise and said incredulously, "You kid has become a spirit. How do you know what I'm worried about? I have the ability to predict the future. It really surprises me." Marbury laughed and patted his chest and said, "Master, you underestimate our industrial park too much. The workers who came to us in industrial park for refuge, plus their families, exceed 3,000. Fortunately, the place is large enough and the prepared supplies are sufficient. Now that the flood has besieged for 7 or 8 days, even those who don't know how to save supplies anymore know how to arrange the supply of materials at a fixed time and quantity. Who knows when the flood will recede? We don't have much else to prepare, but we have enough bottled drinking water. Even if the flood besieges us for 20 days, we can still meet the supply. So don't worry, sir. Stay here. You have lost weight. If your wife sees you, she will be very sad. If you don't consider yourself, you should consider the child in your wife's belly. Now that supplies are replenished, and drinking water is adequately guaranteed, what else is there to worry about? All the miscellaneous people were driven out. Then he lay down in the general manager's office and fell asleep. I don't know, when I fell asleep, I felt someone knocking on the door. I opened my eyes and looked up. It was dark. I got up from the bed and lit a cigarette. After opening the door, I saw Jamil Jr. walking in with a tray on which was a precious dish of food at the moment of the disaster. Seeing Belsina's sleepy look, I couldn't help but smile. I put the tray in my hand on the coffee table, and then went out again. After a while, I brought half a basin of hot water for Belsina to wash. Then the two sat on the sofa. Belsina could see clearly what was on the tray. A very fresh sweet orange as big as 2 fists. A small plate of curry vegetables, 2 fried sausages sizzling with oil, and a roasted yellow chicken leg. A big bowl of rice, and a cup of fragrant black tea with tea leaves in it. It was such a luxury to eat so well in the year of the disaster. Little Jamil said in surprise, before he took a sip of the hot tea. Master, I got some good news this afternoon. The workers responsible for observing the flood level reported that the flood level dropped by 5 centimeters today, and the water flow is slowly slowing down. It seems that the flood is not far away. This is good news, but as the flood passes, another thorny problem has to be faced directly. That is, there will be a big epidemic after the disaster. If it were in a developed country, the question would not be so popular so quickly. But what is the situation in India? Everyone should know that it can be said that there is garbage everywhere. In addition, the corpses of animals and humans swallowed by the flood are mixed in the soil. In addition, it would be strange if the plague did not break out in the hot weather. We should prepare in advance, otherwise these invisible and intangible bacteria will kill everyone. So Belsina said with a frown while drinking tea. The decline in the flood level is of course good news, but have you ever thought about what to do after the flood and the plague comes? Preparations should be made in advance, and materials should be saved as much as possible, especially drinking water, and the distribution volume should be strictly controlled. When the road is passable, you should personally go to Udaipa to transport a batch of materials back, especially medicines to prevent the plague, disinfectant water and isolation tents. Little Jamil was just happy about the decline in the flood level, but when he heard his master's order, he felt a chill. The Indian government is in a state of trouble, and they know it best. How many of them will die at the hands of others? If you want to survive, you must save yourself. So you put aside the joy you just got and nodded seriously. I understand, sir. I will go out to buy supplies as soon as the road is passable. But for your safety, I will rush back to Laga Valley as soon as possible. There is no place safer than our home now. Belsina knew the importance of the matter and how powerful those invisible and intangible bacteria were. He nodded helplessly, agreed and said, I have no objection. Let's call Marbury and we'll up and work on a countermeasure in a while, in case there are problems when we are in a hurry and I can't take care of others. But the employees and families who work for me cannot lose a single person. In addition, the families of the 3 people who are missing on the president's raft must be adequately comforted and given more pensions. Chapter 244. Life-saving well. In this way, Belsina settled down quietly in the building materials store. Considering himself, he couldn't occupy a large room by himself. Let the old, weak, sick and disabled sleep on the floor. So Belsina asked Jamil to take a mattress and put it on the piled cement and make a bed on the spot. The large room with sunlight was given to the elderly and children. Although 2 days after moving into the building materials store, the industrial park came to replenish supplies. A lot of drinking water and fresh vegetables and fruits were replenished, and there was even a live goat and 10 chickens. Finally, they could eat some meat. This made the workers and families of the building materials store grateful to the character family one by one. Some elderly people had experienced floods before. What was the state at that time? It can be said to be a purgatory on Earth. The government did not transport supplies into the disaster area until a month later. At that time, only 1 in 10 survived. But I didn't expect Singh to make preparations in advance and prepare sufficient supplies and safe shelters. Let their families move in and go to sleep on the cement. How can we not be moved? I didn't expect that we could have hot meals for 3 meals a day, although drinking water is still in short supply. But we can guarantee people's basic needs, and children and the elderly can even get a piece of fruit every day to supplement important vitamins. The families of these employees with family difficulties not only did not lose weight, but actually gained 2 kilograms. When they were free, Belsina also organized some children to learn cultural knowledge. He taught these children some basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and played games with them, making these children live very happily. A week later, the flood had receded to a level of 1 meter. The water was still very turbulent, and adult men could wade through it with the help of a wooden stick. But what can you do by wading through it? The surrounding farmland was destroyed, and you couldn't see what it was originally. Wouldn't you die if you went out? So everyone could only stay in the building materials store. Others couldn't go out, but Belsina could. Several employees who were good at swimming tied everyone together with a rope. Then he leaned on a stick and went to the industrial park for help. He drove over a large bulldozer with a chassis that was 1.5 meters high and could wade through the water. Then Belsina took his family and sat in the bulldozer, following the stone road that had been washed away by no more than 25% to return to the Laga Valley. Although there were some blockages and landslides on the road ahead, they still crossed the first bridge safely. The second bridge collapsed. You can imagine how fierce the flood was at that time. There were still big trees hanging on the collapsed bridge piers, and some bodies were floating on the river. There were such bodies, even human and tiger bodies. The bridge collapsed, and the river was turbulent and there was no way to cross it. Everyone was very anxious. Just when everyone was at a loss and was planning to find a way to cross the river and return home, they actually saw the road protection team on the other side of the river shouting and waving at the other side, and saw Belsina noticed them. Then they used a rope to tie a stone across the entire river and threw it over, and then tied a wire on the other end of the rope that was strong enough to withstand 200 kilograms of steel wire. Pull it across the river little by little, and then tie it to a big tree to form a simple cable bridge. Put some thin steel cables and then grab such a cable and slowly slide to the other side. Seeing that their master returned to Laga village safely, all the villagers cheered and rejoiced that their master was safe. They can still survive under the wings of the master, and no one dares to bully them because they have a master. Lina was the happiest person to return home. After the flood, the little girl thought of Belsina every day. Coupled with the severe pregnancy reaction, she vomited everything she ate and became haggard in a few days. If she hadn't taken into account the safety of the child in her belly in Belsinger, she would have been unable to stand it. The moment she saw Belsinger return safely, she immediately fainted. After sleeping for a few hours, she woke up. The first time she woke up, she shouted that she was hungry and wanted to eat. Belsinger personally cooked a meal for Lena, which was a relatively authentic Chinese meal, so that the little girl had a good meal. Then he went back to his room to rest. When he slept, the corners of his mouth were raised. After arranging everything at home, he came to the study and was asked by the old butler about the dangers he encountered in the town, and those damn remnants of the high-caste family who were planning to attack him with despicable behavior. The old man fought his way out of the sea of blood and corpses, sneered murderously, and said to Belsinger, "Master, these damn slave robots want to attack you. While the flood has not completely receded, they are still trapped in the building. Let's kill them back now, and we must cut the roots and eliminate the trouble forever." If it were in the past, Belsinger would never agree. But now he sneered with the old butler and told the old butler, "We don't need 20 more people. Bring the weapons at home and kill all these people. Then after the flood recedes, turn the entire town of Sinjar upside down. Clear out all those who have anything to do with the high-caste family. If anyone dares to appear in the town again, I will break their legs." This time, these people were almost skinned alive. The sequel seriously affected Belsinger's mood. When I think of those people drooling and red eyes, with dry and dark hands grabbing their own flesh and eating it bit by bit, what is the difference between this and the outbreak of the doomsday biochemical crisis? Some people have lost their souls. In order to survive, they will do anything. They are already zombies. Why care about their life or death? Because the cabalway can completely pass the destroyed bridge. At night, the old Jamal housekeeper organized 20 elite people under the leadership of the human flesh Luozi Brook. With sufficient weapons and ammunition, they killed back to the town. The human flesh Luozi Brook grew up in the Singer family. When has he ever suffered such grievances? His master was almost eaten alive by others, which made him, as a bodyguard, almost commit suicide out of shame and anger. Now there are enough weapons and ammunition, so why not just rush in and kill them after the flood is over? That night, the whole building, regardless of men, women, and children, was not spared. In the end, the death toll in the whole building exceeded 360. Many of them were the original residents of the upstairs who were brutally killed by these mobs. The number of people killed by the Singh family did not exceed 160, and of course there were also people who jumped into the water to escape. The next morning, Belsing took his personnel to check the holy lake behind the Raga Valley, and the situation was still relatively optimistic. Although the lake water was turbid, the embankment was stable. It was just that some dead bodies floated up from the lake from time to time, most of which were various animals. After unified incineration, the harm was reduced, but the lake water was polluted, and the small river at the foot of the mountain could not be used as a source of drinking water. So the only way was to reuse the wells that had been dug for decades in the village. It's true that the water in the wells was very sweet and not polluted at all. The 2 wells saved the lives of all the people in the village of Raja. After the flood, a plague broke out in eastern Rajasthan, killing more than 100,000 people. Chapter 245, or Disaster Relief 1. There are many strange regulations in India. For example, when the upper castes are short of water, they will get water from the source of the river or the lake. The lower class in India can only use the water in the wells, although the Laga Valley has not been affected too much by the flood. But the originally clear lake has now become turbid, and there are still some dead animals floating on it. Although it has been cleaned, burned, and buried in time, can such water be drunk? The source of the river in the center of the valley is a small lake. The water in the lake cannot be drunk. Can the water in the river be drunk? Although Indians are the most tolerant of pollution in the world, the total number of bacteria and viruses in these river waters is no longer tolerable to the human body. Now, despite the lakes and rivers, everyone in the Laga Valley is facing the problem of drinking water. Fortunately, there are many civilians living in the Laga Valley, and 2 large-scale deep wells have been dug decades ago. The location of the seepage well is on the high ground on the other side of the valley, and it has been filtered through layers of rock and sand on the high ground. Now the only safe source of water is these 2 wells, and the water output of the wells is not bad. It can fully meet the needs of the entire valley, but for the sake of safety, Bell still repeatedly ordered that all drinking water must be boiled before drinking. All tools and clothes soaked in sewage must be discarded, and any food soaked in river water is not allowed to be eaten. The villagers of Laga 100% abide by the regulations set by Master Belsing. In fact, they are not fools, but they are just uneducated. Of course, they know what is clean and what is dirty. The 2 wells now solve the water needs of the entire Laga Valley. After 2 days, the heavy rain finally ended. Finally seeing the sun, Belsing knew that time was running out and took the lead in sending little Jamal to put down the work in the town. He went all out to bring himself to Udapa to buy various daily necessities listed by Belsing. The total investment amount exceeded $200,000, of which a large part of the expenditure was to purchase a simple water source filtration system. There are also disinfectants for water source disinfection. The most left is a variety of food. After little Jamal left with his people, Belsing organized the entire village of Laga and everyone started dredging. After the flood, all the viruses and bacteria remained in the taro mud washed by rainwater, which needed to be handled carefully. Now a huge pit has been dug on the grass, and the villagers are asked to wear masks and gloves, wear boots, and use their home carts to collect all the silt on the streets. It is transported to the designated pit for landfill, and a layer of quicklime is sprinkled every 30 centimeters to kill all bacteria and viruses. All the inedible food and degradable things are piled into the biogas pool for fermentation. In order to eliminate the trouble forever, Belsing even organized a water ghost team to gather all the villagers who are good at swimming. With snorkeling tools and an iron rake in hand, they dived into the bottom of the lake or the bottom of the river and ran up the silt settled at the bottom. After being washed by the river water, it slowly flowed downstream. This can minimize the parasitism of bacteria in the silt at the bottom of the river. Of course, it is impossible to clean the entire lake and river. Try to do the best you can, that's all you can do. For 3 whole days, the entire Laga Valley was extremely lively, with shouts of people and horses everywhere. The entire valley was shrouded in smoke, which was caused by burning clothes. Although there was no river flooding the Laga Valley, there was no flood, but it rained heavily for half a month, and the air was humid. The adobe house had begun to tilt and was even in danger of collapse, but because of the collapse of the bridge, the building materials outside could not be transported in. Living in these dangerous houses, if the wall collapsed, men, women, and children would undoubtedly be spared. For the safety of the people in the village, Belsing funded everyone to receive a housing subsidy of 5 rupees a day and rented the 5 rupees housing subsidy to the villagers who built brick and tile houses. In fact, everyone is an old neighbor for several generations, and even without these housing subsidies, they will still take in these villagers. When the bridge is repaired, the building materials can be transported in, with Belsing contributing 40% and the villagers contributing 60%. The news of building cement brick houses was incredible, and everyone was very excited. Although the disaster had passed, the situation in the Laga Valley was not only not low, but also getting higher and higher day by day. Everyone worked swiftly, and even sang songs. At night, Belsing would kill pigs and sheep to let everyone who had worked hard all day have a good meal, and then have fun for a while. Only then would they go back to rest and sleep, and continue to work the next day. Although the villagers in the Laga Valley were not affected, the crops planted on both sides of the river suffered. After half a month of continuous rain, deep trenches caused by soil erosion were washed out in the farmland. If these deep trenches are not filled, the fertile farmland will cause serious soil erosion, and then it will become very barren soil. How can crops be planted? So after organizing the entire valley and cleaning it up, Belsing began to organize the villagers to take shovels and tools, fill up all the deep ditches that were washed out, and repair the damaged stone embankments on both sides of the river. It was exhausting, but the effect was quite good. When the Laga Valley was on the right track, Belsing met his elder brother-in-law, his father-in-law, in his living room. Although they were well prepared, the losses were heavy. The water flooded the periphery of the village, and more than 300 households were affected. Now Shah village can be said to be in mourning, with more than 170 deaths. Although the father-in-law's family is economically strong, due to the obstruction of the road, there is no way to use money to buy the living materials of the villagers. Food, clothes, and water sources are all soaked. Do you have to eat raw rice? As a last resort, he can only ask his son-in-law for help. Fortunately, the two wells in Xinjiang village 2 have a very large water output, which can fully support the water supply of Shah village. In addition, the villagers put all their belongings high up in the house, and the loss of various living materials can be said to be negligible. So Belsina gathered everyone together and promised to buy living materials with cash and prepare to transport them to his father-in-law. Let's get through this disaster first. Although I lost some money, it was my responsibility as a young generation. In just 6 hours, I mobilized all the livestock in my family that could pull carts and transported the water tanks filled with clean water and various daily necessities to Shah village through the roads that had not been washed away. This solved the urgent problem and finally calmed the people in the village. Chapter 246, All Disaster Relief 2. But one wave has not yet subsided, another wave has risen. The powerful Shah village was affected by the flood. The other villages living in the mountains were even more miserable. When the flood completely receded, the villagers in the mountains rushed out of the mountains with the elderly and children. Because the river destroyed the bridge, these people were stranded in the area between Laga village and Shah village. This group of people are real refugees. Except for some clothes and simple belongings on their bodies, they can be said to have nothing. They are starving, and many people are coughing and having high fevers. These people look very miserable. But these people are all young people, and they are also the only ones who can run out of the village. What kind of state should those who can't run out of the village be in? You should know it by thinking about it. How miserable it is. Those old and weak who are left behind may not survive for more than a week. Although the two villages are strong, there are thousands of refugees living next to your village. Hungry eyes are red, drooling, and always use their eyes to press on you, watching what you eat. Have you ever seen this kind of scene? Of course not. If this situation is not improved, these hungry villagers will slowly take risks. Only God knows what these hungry people can do at that time. This group of people is too dangerous. But they are alive and well. What can you do with them? You can't drive them away, and you can't kill them. Because there are too many people, there is no way to rescue them. I don't have the capital. This made Belsina worried. Is it possible to be blocked at the door of the house and have another experience of escaping death? I don't want to experience it again, because those hungry people are too terrible. In addition, there are old and young people in the village. If these refugees really take risks and rush into the village, the consequences can be imagined. So Belsina had no choice but to find his father-in-law to discuss it together. Invite the father-in-law to the house and drink tea on the sofa. But Belsina is in a very bad state since 3 days ago, after the villagers from the mountains came to the entrance of the village to camp. Belsina's heart has never been calm. He couldn't eat or sleep every day, and his teeth were swollen because of toothache. So he couldn't drink hot tea, so he could only put ice cubes on his face, smoked helplessly, and sighed to his father-in-law. Dad, you don't know that these refugees who ran out of the mountains have red eyes and look like they want to bite anyone. I'm really afraid that they won't get the supplies they deserve for a long time. If they are really hungry and crazy, our two villages will be in danger. These people can't do anything. After thinking hard for a few days, I haven't found a good way, so I have to invite the old man. With your decades of experience, give me some advice on what to do. My Laga village is okay, because there are walls blocking it. In addition, there are enough guns and ammunition, so I'm not afraid of them rushing in. But Shah village is different. I don't think you want to encounter such consequences. Isn't this nonsense? Who likes to face these refugees with red eyes? Isn't there a way? What can you do if they don't leave? Can't you kill all these tens of thousands of people? But as the saying goes, old people are cunning and clever. When you are old, you have experienced many things and have many solutions. Unlike young people, they will be at a loss when they encounter a little emergency. Although the old man is very anxious, he also knows that the easiest way to solve such a problem is to let those people eat. but his village is now supported and aided by Belsinger, so how can he take out so much food to feed these refugees? But as a father-in-law, I feel embarrassed to let my son-in-law face such pressure alone. You are the elder, and you let the young people rush in front of everything. What do you want to do? Not to mention that it is a matter of two families. Your Shah family stood aside and let the character family bear all the pressure alone. Isn't it a bit too much to do this? So the old man coughed very embarrassedly to ease the awkward atmosphere. But the matter is urgent. If these people are not given a full meal, they will really eat people, just as Belsinger said. Lager didn't care because of the protection of the city wall, but does your Shah village have such a strong and tall city wall for protection? Without the protection of the city wall, it's like a girl without clothes, exposed in front of these hungry people, waiting to be eaten. If they rush in, how many people will die? Although he was embarrassed, he had to admit that he was really powerless now. But the ability to give advice still exists. Although he was embarrassed, he had to say what he thought in his heart. Otherwise, something big must happen. Looking at the son-in-law who was lying on the sofa with a toothache and groaning, he felt distressed and said, "The solution is very simple, that is to let them have a full meal, but this full meal has a certain limit. The villagers who can escape from the deep mountains and old forests are all young and strong. If they are full, they will have the strength to cause trouble. Let them eat, but not full, just make sure they don't starve to death. If they don't starve to death, they can't get up and commit crimes. This is the best state. What do you think? Let them be half dead and alive are good refugees. If they are full, they will definitely take action at the first time. But if they are extremely hungry and crazy, they will starve to death soon. They will lose their minds and this group of soulless people will be more dangerous. So they must be allowed to eat but not full. Make sure they don't starve to death and can't get up and resist. Then the question is, if it comes to food in peacetime, or when there is no disaster, the Singh family doesn't care. It is completely possible to feed tens of thousands of people for a month without any problem, but now it is a year of great disaster, and half of the supplies are used to aid Shah village, which has several times more people than their own village. How can there be so many surplus supplies to supply these refugees? Belsing had a headache, his teeth also hurt, and there was no part of his body that didn't hurt. After hearing his father-in-law's advice, he calculated the remaining supplies in the village and said helplessly, "This method is good, but it can't be implemented at this stage, because although the Laga Valley was not affected by the flood, the material losses were not small, and now half of it has to be used to help the villagers of Nengsha village. There are not many remaining supplies, and I don't know when the bridge can be repaired to drive these refugees away. If it is delayed for another half a month, our Singh family will have to starve." At this time, the old man smiled mysteriously, and had been smiling all the time. "Singer, I made a misunderstanding. In the past, when there was no bridge or road, how did we travel? Can we not get out if the bridge is destroyed? If you are worried about the lack of supplies, then let them have enough food, and take people to drive them away. Let them follow the old road, and go to the town to make a living. It's such a simple thing. Look how worried you are. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 247, All Our Disaster Relief 3rd. If they were driven to the town, it would be a living hell. It was still okay in the mountains. If they couldn't survive, they could dig some wild vegetables, collect wild fruits or hunt in the mountains. But if they went to the barren land in the town, where more than 100,000 people were crowded together, what would they eat and drink? But now was a difficult time due to natural disasters, and I could only take care of myself. As for the lives of others, I had no business. As long as they didn't cause any harm to Laga village, they could let their luck decide their lives. So Bell didn't pretend to be dead on the sofa. He sat up and smoked a cigarette, called the old housekeeper, and asked how much supplies his family had now. The final result was quite satisfactory because the Singh family prepared the Singh Industrial Company half a year ago, and many of the villagers in Laga worked as workers in the cement and asbestos tile factory of the Singh Enterprise Company, earning a lot of money. They didn't have to rely on farming for a living as before, so only a small part of the grain was sold, and a large part was left at home. Although some of them were damp, they were not soaked by the river water. They could be eaten after drying. The whole family counted that they could meet the needs of the 2 villages within 2 months. If it came to the last resort, Belsina could also slaughter some of the unsold black goats. Black goats are good things. In addition to wool, they can be eaten from head to toe. Of course, Hindus would not choose to use goat viscera in the past, but now people are starving to death. They are so hungry that their eyes are green. Not to mention goats, people are so hungry that they eat them. They still care about goat viscera. So slaughtering 100 or 80 goats is enough to support for a period of time. It is a blessing to be able to not starve to death when a disaster is imminent, and to be able to eat enough, so I don't know how long it can last. Hearing such a satisfactory result gave Belsina a lot of confidence. He ordered the housekeeper to quickly organize the women in the village to make some rice balls and flatbreads and send some to the tens of thousands of refugees outside to let them eat first. Then all the male villagers in the 2 villages were gathered together, holding sticks, knives and forks in their hands, and all those who could hit people were picked up. Give each of the refugees 2 large cakes and then take them to the town. If they don't leave, beat them. Beat them half to death and see if they leave. If they are really tough, just shoot them on the spot. Just drive them away and stop threatening the safety of the 2 villages. As for whether they can find food in the town or government assistance, it depends on their own luck. My master Singh is not God. It's good enough to be able to save his own people. How can I save you? The old Jamal housekeeper who received the master's order also thought this was a trick and quickly organized the women and children in the village to make rice balls and cakes. After seeing the old housekeeper walk out, Bel Singh turned around and said to his father-in-law, "Dad, you also heard what I said. Let the housekeeper organize all the villagers in Shah village who can move to take weapons. Meet up with the Raga Valley. Even if we fight, we must beat them to the town. We can't let them stay at the gates of the 2 villages. It's too dangerous." Although this is a bit cruel, he can only take care of himself. 2 hours later, even if he was sitting in the living room of the castle, Belsina could also hear the cheers coming from the entrance of the valley. It seemed that the refugees had already had hot meals. Finally, the refugees who were red-eyed were appeased. Tomorrow, when all the people of the Shah family arrived, they would be driven out. In addition, his father-in-law brought his whole family to his castle for refuge. Belsina, as a relative, of course, had to go all out and arrange for the entire Shah family to stay. Then a grand dinner was held in the evening, so that the Shah family, who had been frightened for more than half a month, could have a good meal. At this time, the signal tower and hydroelectric power generation equipment erected by Belsina at a huge cost finally played a role. Little Jamal, who came to Udaipa to buy supplies, finally sent back the news. As soon as the phone was connected, there was a noisy sound from the other end. When little Jamal saw that the phone was connected, he said to his master with a smile, "Master, I have checked into a hotel in Udaipa now. We have been cut off from communication and information in the mountains. I don't know why this flood has swept across the entire Rajasthan and the surrounding gangs. It can be said that it is rare in a century. Even in a big city like Udaipa, several surrounding towns have been affected, and all the refugees from the countryside have poured into the city. There are refugees with their families everywhere. Government departments have organized disaster relief, but it is a drop in the bucket. Now those damn profiteers have raised the prices of daily necessities by more than 3 times. It's unfair, sir. The price of a pound of rice has reached 60 rupees. Although we have US dollars with us, the prices of materials are really outrageous. Master, buying all kinds of disaster relief supplies now is equivalent to putting your head in the hands of the other party to blackmail us. Master, should you stop buying supplies?" Originally, according to Bel Singh's idea, he planned to let little Jarman bring 500,000 US dollars to Udaipa to buy disaster relief supplies. In addition to using it for their own use, they could also help some of the victims in the town. At least they could earn a good reputation and some gratitude, which would make it easier for the Sin family to dominate the town of Sinja. However, plans could not keep up with the speed of change. The price of a grain of rice had tripled, so how much would the price of cooking oil, meat and fruit rise to? Wouldn't it be a drop in the bucket if I invested this little money? What effect could I see? Wouldn't this just be a waste of money? So Belsin gave a decisive order. Don't buy food supplies for now. Buy some medicines, especially water purification systems and water disinfection tablets. Tents and cheaper clothes. Let those employees' families who were destroyed by the flood live in tents first. We can't care about others. Little Jamal said with tears in his eyes. Master, the tents have now increased to 20,000 rupees each, and even the cheapest t-shirts have reached 100 rupees each, which is more than twice the usual price. We have to buy them, otherwise the workers in the factory will be crowded in the factory every day. Will the workers be able to bear it, and their elderly, weak, sick and disabled families can bear it? Save people to the end and send Buddha to the west. I have promised those workers to protect the safety of their families. Can I break my promise? I will buy it, no matter how much money it costs. Now I can only save my own people first. As for the life and death of others, I can't care. After hearing the master's order, little Jamal could only bite the bullet and hang up the phone, and then took people to contact the Udaipa Disaster Relief Command in the name of the Sinja Town Disaster Relief Committee. We tried to see if we could get some materials in the name of the government, but the answer we got was disappointing. We didn't have any tents. We had to spend a lot of money to buy tents, water purification equipment, disinfectant, and various cheap clothes from the market. If we could buy old clothes, we would buy them. If we couldn't, we would buy t-shirts, cropped pants, and a pair of plastic slippers, which were enough to meet a person's daily needs. Chapter 248, Our Disaster Relief 4. I didn't expect that these unscrupulous profiteers could raise the price of goods by more than 3 times under such a natural disaster. These shameless profiteers are not afraid of being struck by lightning. They make money by the disaster. If they survive that, these profiteers will definitely be punished by the government and they won't be able to cry at that time. We can't control others, we can only control ourselves. After hanging up the phone with Jamal, Belsina felt his heart bleeding. This is a lot of dollars. I don't know if it's worth it to spend so much money just for a promise. I don't know if it's worth it. I can't get angry if I spend so much money. I locked myself in the study, smoking and getting angry, and I felt my teeth hurt more. At this time, I heard the door of the study being knocked, and I shouted impatiently to come in. Unexpectedly, it was the pot-bellied Lina who opened the door. This scared Belsina, and he stood up quickly, helped Lina sit on the sofa and said blamingly, "Why are you running out instead of resting in the room?" Lina smiled slightly. The two grew up together. What kind of personality does Belsina have? Lina knows it best. In addition, there are too many things to do in the past 2 days, which makes Belsina eat poorly, sleep poorly, and have a toothache due to anxiety. Lina feels guilty for not being able to help her husband because of her pregnancy. She heard the old housekeeper say that the master locked himself in the study and was very worried, so she came to take a look. Although Belsina was very depressed, his mental state was still good. Except for the swelling of half of his face due to toothache, he had no other problems, and said with a smile, "I heard that you locked yourself in the study. I felt very worried. Seeing that you are in good condition, I finally feel relieved. You are tired for so many days. Take a shower and rest quickly. There are still many troubles waiting for you to solve in the future. Don't give up on yourself when you encounter something. It's not a big deal to spend some money." His wife is almost a spirit. She knows everything. If she knows, she knows. There is nothing shameful. It seems that his emotions have affected the quality of life of his family. He can't make the whole family turbulent because of his unhappiness. So he forced a smile and helped Lina up himself. The young couple went to the master bedroom hand in hand. Belsina took his clothes and went to the bathroom in the master bedroom to take a simple shower. After taking a few anti-inflammatory and painkiller pills, he hugged his wife and fell asleep on the bed. The next morning, he got up very early. After breakfast, Belsina took the old housekeeper to gather everyone. with sticks, knives and forks. All the guns and ammunition were taken out to intimidate the refugees with red eyes. All gathered at the entrance of the Laga Valley, hiding behind the city wall. You can hear the voices of the refugees living outside the entrance of the valley. Some of the shameless refugees are even discussing what kind of food the Singh family brought them today. Can they eat enough? It seems that these people have no intention of leaving, and they plan to eat the rich at the door of their own family. Now is a year of great disasters, and the landlords have no surplus food. You guys don't want to make a living. They actually want to threaten the Singh family to force themselves to send them food and drink. This is a vampire. If you don't deal with them, who else should you deal with? After waiting for more than 2 hours, I heard some commotion among the crowd outside, and everyone was talking about it. What exactly do those armed people coming from the direction of Shah village want to do? When I walked up to the city wall, I saw that my brother-in-law and his men were rushing towards the group of people aggressively. The support finally arrived, and it was time for the Singh family to come out. As soon as the gate opened, more than 200 people from the Singh family rushed out. Men holding various weapons, accompanied by the old butler. Bel Singh appeared in front of the group of panicked refugees. To be honest, the state of this group of people was really miserable. Their bodies were torn and dirty, and their dark skin became extremely thin. But those eyes still revealed madness. Seeing that everyone had caused a commotion, Bel Singh laughed first, calmed everyone down, and then spoke loudly with his waist squinted. I think everyone understands that who can escape from a flood that happens once in 100 years. Although our Singh family has no casualties, who can escape from a disaster? The rice bowls and flatbreads you ate yesterday were all saved from our mouths. We really can't afford to feed you. Today we can only provide you with one last meal, and then you can go to the town to find a way to make a living. Our family can't afford to feed so many people. I hope you can understand. Although this group of people have no culture, Bel Singh's meaning is very clear. That is, the landlord's family has no surplus food to feed you. After providing you with a full meal, find a way out for each of you. This is to drive everyone away. Although these people don't know what the town is like, is it easy to find a life in the town? Is it easy to find a way out? Staying here still has a way to survive. If you go to the town, you will be dead. The reason why they dare to threaten the Bel Singh family is that the road is cut off, and the law does not punish the masses. Everyone gathers together in tens of thousands of people, which can form invisible pressure on the Singh family to force them to submit. If they go to the town, can their low-level efforts find a bite of food? Isn't that courting death? Who is stupid? They don't understand. So everyone started to riot. Some people hid in the crowd and even shouted loudly. Uzanja family is really too much. You know that there is a disaster and so many people in the town have no food. If we go there, won't we starve to death? Are you so cruel that you can bear to watch everyone starve to death without helping? That's right, don't listen to him. Bel Singh has a black heart. They just want to connect us to the town and let us fend for ourselves. What is the situation in the Raga Valley? Who doesn't know about the surrounding villages? Even if the whole of India is flooded, the Raga Valley is fine. That's right, he just wants everyone to leave. There is plenty of food, but he won't give us food. Can everyone tolerate such shameless behavior? We choose to protest. Your Singh family is to bullying. After some people incited everyone like this, they all felt that it was really the case. The Singh family wanted to kill everyone. Everyone was going to starve to death anyway, so what was there to be afraid of? So the crowd could not help but slowly start to stir. Those hungry young people began to gather outside, intending to confront the Singh family's expulsion. This is a rhythm of making trouble. The two families together have more than 500 young and strong thugs, with guns and weapons in hand. I'm afraid of you refugees who are staggering with hunger. If you want to play hard, I will play with you to the end. Bel Singh knew that it was useless to be soft with these people. They would think that the character family was cowardly and would choose to push further. Then he could only play hard. He waved his hand and the character family members holding various firearms behind him began to sneer and stepped forward to pull the bolts of the guns. Chapter 249, A Massacre. Bel Singh took a few steps back, and then two male servants carried Bel Singh on their shoulders. Looking down at the group of refugees in front of him who were showing panic, he said with a slight sneer on his lips, "I warn you again, don't move. The Singh family has done its best. If you want to threaten me again, I'm sorry, I can only eliminate potential enemies." Then, seeing that the refugees in front of him were a little bit retreating, he decided to add fuel to the fire and looked at everyone coldly, shouting loudly, "I warn you again, retreat. If anyone doesn't listen to me, I will kill them." The leader of the disaster doesn't think about saving himself, but wants to rob other people's property. You can think of it. It's better to give you a dog than to feed you. Get out of here quickly, or I will really do it. At this time, the people of the Singh family and the Shah family, holding weapons in their hands, followed their companions with guns, shouting loudly behind them, "Get out, get out, get out." The man with a gun in front had already pointed his gun at the refugees, especially the young and strong refugees who were making trouble. If anyone dares to take another step forward, he will be shot. If they are shot to death, no one will seek justice for these refugees. It would be a waste of their lives. Everyone knows that Belsina is not joking. If they block the door and threaten the safety of their families, it would be strange if they don't go crazy. In fact, some people are encouraging everyone to know that their lives are their own. If they die, they will really have nothing. As a last resort, they can only take their families and their only belongings and be driven forward by the servants of the two families, looking back every step. As the saying goes, there are really people who don't want to die. I don't know what they think in their hearts. They think Belsina really doesn't dare to shoot, or they think that they have been forced into a dead end and know that leaving here means death. So these people slowly gather together. What are they whispering to each other? Others didn't see it, but Belsina, who was sitting on a high place, could see the scale of these people clearly. There are more than 200 people. This group of people are all young and strong adult men. They gathered together and whispered. Although they were surrounded outside, they were passing something to each other inside. It is obvious that what was passed to each other was weapons. At this time, several male members of the Shah family had come to these people. They were about to drive them away with wooden sticks, but they didn't expect that the group of people would disperse all of a sudden, and everyone was holding a chopping axe in their hands. This kind of knife has a curved hook in front, and it is incredibly heavy. Not to mention a person, even a cow would have half of its head chopped off with one chop. Just when everyone didn't react, a strong man with an astonishing height of more than 1.9 meters took the axe and shouted loudly, "The TMD Singh family won't let us live. What is there in Sinjar town? What else can we have besides corpses? Can we go to the town to eat those rotten corpses? All of them are dead brothers. Come with me to kill them, and there is still a way to live." He took advantage of the situation and chopped the neck of an ordinary male member of the Shah family. The axe weighed more than 10 pounds and chopped with all his strength, and the guy's head was chopped off on the spot. The blood in the artery jumped out more than 2 meters high like a fountain and fell straight to the ground, deader than dead. The strong man's move was like a signal. The several men of the Shah family who came to these people could not be chopped to the ground. More than 10 meters away were members of the Singh family holding guns. The sudden change made everyone feel incredible. Bell, who was carried on the shoulders of 2 people, shouted with his eyes wide open, "What the hell are you doing this for? Shoot down all these desperate people who don't care about their lives. Don't let any of them go." Bell Singh shouted, waking everyone up. The people around Singh had seen blood. They had also attacked the Joshi family before, so they were afraid of these desperate people. What was in their hands? A gun or a fire stick? They chose to pull the trigger without hesitation, and there was a burst of gunfire. Then there was the sound of human bodies breaking, and some screams of injured people falling to the ground. Master Singh had ordered that no one should be spared. So what should the servants of the Singh family be polite about? Good marksmanship can reduce the pain and shoot in the head. Those who were not good at shooting could only shoot at the torso. The injured fell to the ground, hugged their injured parts, wailed, and rolled over. If there were any kind people, they could shoot him again to end his pain of serious injury, but there was no kind person in the Belsina family. No one shot him again, so he could only lie on the ground in pain and slowly approach death. When the blood ran out, he saw God. When the gunshots rang out, the refugees who had just walked out of the front looked back and saw that they were really killing people. The timid men, women, old and young ran forward screaming because there were too many people and the road was narrow and very muddy. Everyone squeezed and shoved each other, scrambling to escape the fate of the massacre. It caused a stampede, and some thin or young people were knocked to the ground and never had a chance to get up. More than 200 people sounded like a lot, but in the face of hot weapons, these people who charged with cold weapons could have any good. They were either shot to pieces or shot in the head. In just 3 minutes, everyone fell to the ground. The leader, who was 1.9 meters tall, received special attention. He fell to the ground with more than a dozen blood holes in his chest and had already died. When the gunshots stopped, everyone looked back and saw that the guys had disappeared. There was no need to fight them. How much trouble would be left if they were automatically gone? More than 200 people were slaughtered, like more than 200 pigs. The muddy scene was soaked in blood, and it creaked when walking on it. Only then did someone remember to shoot the seriously injured people to make them suffer. Then Belcina was put down and ordered the members of the two families, gather all these corpses together and find a place that will not pollute the environment and burn them all. See if there are any survivors among those who were trampled to death. If there are, treat them. If there are none, burn them all. Then he walked back home without even looking at them, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. Although he felt a little reluctant, he had no choice. There were too many of them. They were so hungry that they were about to eat people. What would happen if they rushed into the valley? The whole family was eaten by them. For the safety of his family, he could only let these damned untouchables suffer. After a few hours of statistics, the death toll exceeded 280. Only 2 little boys, aged 4 or 5, were rescued from death, but they had multiple fractures. Belcina ordered the servants in the family to organize a team of 20 people to take the 2 little boys to the town hospital. Can they be treated? It all depends on the fate of the 2 little boys. After all, the university has just passed, and the hospital is in a mess. It is a question whether the doctors and nurses can survive. He can only do his best and leave the rest to fate. Chapter 250, Porridge Distribution. 2 days later, Jamal returned with the supplies. The reason why he was able to return so quickly was that the situation this year was too special. I don't know which head of the Rajasthan government had a cramp and chose to provide disaster relief at the first time. Although the disaster relief supplies were not fully prepared, the road repair was still completed, and the upper class in India had the habit of giving alms. If you can see professional beggars in some big cities, they will benefit from the alms of these upper class people. They don't have to do any work to survive, and their lives are not bad. The moment the road was opened, Jamal finally returned to Sinjar town with a large number of supplies. It was placed in the warehouse of Singh Industrial Park. Bel Singh personally went to the town to preside over the overall situation. Otherwise, who would dare to make the decision? Who dared to distribute these disaster relief supplies that were bought at a high price? As a last resort, Bel Singh could only say goodbye to his family and told them not to worry about their lives in the town. In addition, with the close protection of a human mule brook, no one could hurt himself, but in this way, his family was even more worried. Directing the distribution of disaster relief supplies is not an easy job, and it is exhausting. So no matter what, Lena insisted that Bel bring a chef and a maid to work in the town. The disaster relief situation at home has entered the final stage. With the old housekeeper at home knowing everything, all problems can be solved. In addition, the old man is old and has a weak resistance, so it is safer to stay at home. 2 days later, Bel Singh brought people to the simple zipline bridge again. Wow, it was really thrilling. Then they came to the Singer Industrial Park in the town. The industrial park is located at a higher altitude, and even if it is affected by the flood, it is only about half a meter deep. What is rare is that there have been sunny days in the past 2 days. Although the temperature is relatively high, it is good enough to dry the moisture in the land for people to walk. Seeing the mountains of supplies in the warehouse, Bel Singh was quite relieved and said with a smile as he looked at everyone, "What are you waiting for?" Every employee of Singer Industrial Company who was affected by the disaster can be distributed on a headcount basis. The standard for one tent is one tent for 5 people in each family. If there are more than 5 people in a family, 2 tents will be given. Everyone must have a good rest. Then disinfect all the ground in the entire industrial park with disinfectant and lime. Hearing Belsinger's instructions, everyone took action and first disinfected a large area in the relatively dry location in the center of the industrial park. After thorough cleaning, all the tents were erected and distributed on a headcount basis. Each family of 5 people had 1 tent, and more than 5 people were given 2 tents. After distributing the tents, Bell began to organize the employees' families and women to build a simple stove. Use a large stainless steel bucket to boil water. Put disinfectant powder in the water after boiling, and organize everyone to take a bath after sterilization. Let's wash the body first, anyway. Wash it all from head to toe. Then take the t-shirts, cropped pants, and plastic slippers that the Singer family spent a lot of money to buy back. Both adults and children have 2 sets of new clothes to change. The cleaned women organized themselves and started to cook. The food was very simple, but the nutrition must be sufficient. So they made mutton pilaf, stewed with mutton, carrots and onions, and then added rice. The only difference from XJ's pilaf is that it has curry in it. Everyone, whether adults or children, was given a large spoonful of fried rice, with a fist-sized piece of mutton on it, and a large spoonful of stewed vegetables. A banana was enough to ensure everyone's nutritional intake. Everyone was very happy to eat this lunch. Although it was a bit stuffy to be able to live in a tent that was sheltered from the wind and rain, it was very clean and comfortable. 3 meals a day were provided, with meat, vegetables and fruits. What else could these employees who had lost all their belongings be dissatisfied with? After everyone had eaten and drunk enough, Belsinger organized adult men and women. A very sticky rice porridge was cooked in a special pot, and there were fresh vegetables that had been pickled in a plastic bucket. After preparing everything, he took a disposable plastic bowl and took a truck to the center of the town. At this time, Magnate, who had already received the news, and the town leaders all gathered in front of the town government gate to welcome the Singh family. Magnate is indeed an old fox. Although the scale of this flood has not been seen in a century, this old fox ran to the government building with all his family and belongings before the flood broke out. There were dozens of armed policemen in the building, who were not afraid of harassment from the hungry refugees. In order to consolidate his rule, the mayor not only came, but also took all the leaders' families to live in the building. Due to sufficient supplies, they lived quite well. Seeing Singh leading several trucks of food and workers to the town government compound, he hurriedly took the leaders to shake hands and express condolences. Then he used the giant loudspeaker of the town government building to broadcast to the town government compound that the Singh family was ready to provide food such as rice porridge to the refugees. Everyone was asked to come and get the food. Although they were not full, they did not feel hungry. The rice porridge was very thick and paired with sour and refreshing side dishes. Although disposable plastic bowls were used, everyone who ate the porridge was reminded, because the supplies were too scarce, the plastic bowls must be concentrated and placed in the sink for cleaning. Everyone should keep their own plastic bowls and use them to eat next time. Then Belsinger distributed some simple disinfectant tablets to everyone. These disinfectant tablets were packed in small plastic bottles. Each bottle contained 100 tablets, which were only the size of ordinary tablets. They were placed in a kettle that could hold a liter of water for purification for half an hour, and all the bacteria and debris in the water were killed. Although the disinfected water did not taste good, people would never be infected with viruses and have diarrhea after drinking it, because water sources are the most important after the flood. One of the top priorities is that a person can survive for 7 days without food, but in such hot weather in India, people will die of thirst if they are cut off from water for a day and a half. But where did all the water sources go after the flood? Drink a mouthful of clean water. How can there be so much bottled water for everyone to drink? Fortunately, the water pump of the central water supply system has been repaired, and the diesel generator is operating normally. Although the water pumped up is very turbid, it is much cleaner than the water in rivers and lakes. Put a disinfectant tablet, which is enough for one person, to drink for a day. Belsina purchased a large number of such water purification tablets, enough for 50,000 people, to use for a month. In addition to these, black and white hurdle vests and shorts that usually cost a few dollars were also distributed. The cheapest plastic slippers were asked to change into, and the clothes taken off were burned uniformly, to eliminate the problem forever. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.